Kang Jin-hyuk was a hunter, but definitely not the type to trend or hit celebrity status. Trapped in the D-rank grind, he only got the scraps major guilds didn't want. He'd accepted this harsh reality. In this world, influences law, and the weak, they just get trampled. But everything changed when a strange hum echoed through his apartment. He investigated, discovering a shimmering, pulsating rift, a direct gateway into a monster-filled dimension. The beasts couldn't see him, but he could step through their world completely undetected. To a guy with zero prospects, this wasn't a nightmare, it was a golden ticket. A private solo dungeon. Every monster and legendary treasure belonged solely to him. No rivals, no kill stealing. Jin-hyuk finally saw a path to escape the bottom tier. With nothing left to lose, he steeled his resolve and crossed into the labyrinth's first floor. Before he could blink, a goblin lunged. He barely dodged a heavy club aimed at his skull. Diving back into his attic, he watched the creature swing wildly at nothing, totally confused. It was clear monsters can't see the portal, let alone follow him back home. Fear vanished instantly. Armed with a trusty baseball bat, he charged back in for blood. He cracked the goblin's jaw, sent it flying, and followed up with a brutal body blow. One final crushing strike to the face, and his first solo hunt was over. No party, no split experience. He pocketed the entire jackpot for himself. After 3 years of stagnation, his level finally spiked in a single instant. That goblin carcass alone was worth 3 million won pure, unadulterated profit. Next day at the hunter's market, the merchant immediately pegged him as a total newbie. Sloppy handling tanked the value, but the payout was still better than he'd imagined. He secured an offer over 3 million won, but there was one massive catch. He had to reveal the location. That was a hard pass for Jin-hyuk. If they found his secret attic gate, his easy money glitch would vanish forever. Suddenly, Black Dragon Guild thugs burst in looking for a fight and some answers. They suspected Jin-hyuk was poaching on their turf and prepared to crush him. Luckily, the merchant shifted their aggro toward some random blonde guy standing nearby. The hunters jumped the poor man, beating him until he was a bloody, broken mess. They accused him of trespassing and illegal hunting without a proper license. Suspecting him of being a serial killer, they dragged his mangled body away for interrogation. Jin-hyuk felt a chill that could have easily been him on the floor. Witnessing the brutality, he realized he couldn't just sell his loot anywhere. He needed a safer way to flip his items without catching a guild's attention. Staying alive meant avoiding the big players and their violent enforcers at all costs. Back home, Jin-hyuk decided to dive back into the grind and truly level up. But first he needed some serious gear to survive the deeper, deadlier levels. He grabbed a teleport stone for emergency escapes and a high-tech monster tracker. Geared up and bat in hand, he stepped back into the rift to start grinding. It was a non-stop slaughter. Every monster down meant his power was surging. The goblin labyrinth was crawling with targets, and Jin-hyuk was ready for every one. For a low-level hunter, this place was the ultimate training ground to get jacked. After a long session, his inventory was stuffed, leaving room for just one more. He wanted his final catch of the day to be a real big spender. Right on cue, his compass pinged a monster heading straight toward his location. Perfect. Time to hide in the shadows and launch a deadly surprise attack. Creeping around the corner, he holds his breath, waiting for the perfect split second to strike. He swings with lethal intent, but instead of a goblin, his bat connects with a pint-sized man. The stranger erupts in a bizarre, gibberish-filled rant. Terrified, Jin-hyuk drops into a deep, apologetic bow. The gesture cools the man's temper. He fishes out 2 necklaces and slides one toward Jin-hyuk. Once the jewelry touches his neck, the gibberish transforms into clear words, sparking 2 shocking realizations. First off, this stranger is beyond pissed, and honestly, Jin-hyuk totally gets why. Getting clubbed in the face would annoy anyone. But the second shocker, this tiny person, isn't a human at all. He's a legendary dwarf, a creature straight out of a high fantasy novel. The grumpy dwarf keeps barking orders, while Jin-hyuk scrambles to pick up the scattered treasures. Even a quick glance proves these items are top-tier loot with insane craftsmanship. He can't fanboy for long while being roasted. Suddenly, the dwarf's eyes lock onto Jin-hyuk's bat. He demands to know its origin, leaving Jin-hyuk baffled. To him, the weapon is totally basic. But the dwarf won't back down. To Jin-hyuk, it's just a cheap standard-issue aluminum baseball bat. However, the dwarf is dead set that this metal is actually legendary ultra-rare orichalcum. In the dwarf's eyes, this ordinary sports equipment is a priceless artifact of god-tier value. He offers a massive trade rare loot for the bat. Jin-hyuk, smelling a win, immediately agrees. He follows the dwarf to his forge. While the blacksmith heads back, Jin-hyuk scouts the workshop. He browses the insane weaponry on display, dreaming of his reward. But suddenly, the dwarf returns wielding the bat. It's now pulsing with a fierce neon red radiance. The thing is literally humming with energy. Jin-hyuk's jaw drops. Is this even the same weapon? That's orichalcum for you, the dwarf grunts. It starts soft, then hardens into an unbreakable force. That E-word grabs Jin-hyuk's focus. Did this dwarf just manually enchant his aluminum bat? Enchanted gear is basically a myth, usually locked behind terrifying A-rank boss fights. or top-tier high-level monsters. Jin-Yuk gives the red-hot bat a few practice swings. It feels completely different, pure power. He can't believe a master could actually craft this. This dwarf and this hidden dungeon, they might be the golden ticket he's been chasing. Checking the status screen, his eyes widen. His bat has evolved into a legendary masterpiece. It's now an S-grade legendary bat, boasting max durability and a sick auto-retrieval skill. His trash-tier aluminum bat is now a world-class relic. Selling this could make him a millionaire. But there's a catch, it's soul-bound. He's stuck with it, making it impossible to trade. Thanks to that auto-recall perk, Jin-Yuk is the only one who can ever wield it. No payday from the weapon then. But he's still holding an S-rank artifact of doom. Still, he has other ways to get paid. His inventory is overflowing with lucrative goblin corpses. The problem, selling them without the big shot guilds sniffing around his secret dungeon stash. His only play is the Hunter Underworld's black market, where questions go to die. They're efficient and discreet. Plus, he's ready to make a deal. Finding them is a breeze. They hand out business cards to desperate low-tier hunters like candy. Jin-Yuk has a whole stack of them. Back home, he grabs a sketchy contact card. It looks incredibly shady, but he's desperate. He heads straight to the illegal market's address. While scanning the alleyways for a sign, a voice calls out to him from above. It's Deputy Cho Hyung-il. He invites Jin-Yuk inside to meet the big boss. He's introduced to Lee Jun-chol, a ruthless loan shark masquerading as a simple agent. This guy runs the corpse trade. He demands a look at the goods before talking money. Jin-Yuk casually dumps the bodies from his inventory, leaving the thugs absolutely speechless. This rookie just produced 20 goblin carcasses. Their jaws hit the floor at the massive haul. The specimens were in top-tier condition, though their skulls were absolutely wrecked from heavy blunt force trauma. Aside from the head damage, the bodies were flawless. Deputy Cho was practically drooling over the high-quality haul. The trio started talking numbers, but the vibe died instantly when black market goons burst in panicking. They shouted about a monster nearby. Turns out leaving fresh kills out is like ringing a dinner bell for predators. 20 fresh goblin corpses. That wasn't just a sale, it was a high-frequency beacon for every beast in the area. To make matters worse, 2 massive orcs showed up. These were tank-class enemies way beyond Jin-Yuk's current level. Survival was the only priority. He needed to grab his loot and vanish before things got bloody. But he was too slow. The lead orc closed the gap instantly, eyes locked on them with murderous intent. Since Jin-Yuk was the only hunter on site, the defense of the group fell entirely on his shoulders. But courage didn't guarantee a win. The orc roared and lunged at him, swinging a massive battle axe. He slipped the first strike, but the beast's follow-up was a lightning-fast blow aimed right at his dome. At this range, dodging was impossible. For a split second, Jin-Yuk felt like he was about to meet a pathetic end. Suddenly, his buffed bat materialized from his inventory, parrying the axe a hair's breadth from his face. The clash was so powerful, it sent the orc stumbling back. This bat was definitely packing some hidden enchantments. It had an auto-guard feature. If his new weapon was this cracked, he actually stood a fighting chance. The orc charged again, but Jin-Yuk was locked in. He tightened his grip, ready to turn the tables. He shattered the orc's kneecap with a low swing, sending the giant off balance and wide open for more. He followed up with a brutal face shot that snapped its neck instantly. 1 kill, and his level hit the moon. He rocketed from level 24 to 36. No time to flex, though the second orc was already attacking. The beast lunged, but Jin-Yuk was ready. He sidestepped the assault like a pro and circled to its rear. He slammed the bat into its spine before finishing the job with a final lethal strike to the head. Target neutralized. Just like that, Jin-Yuk had no diffed 2 high-level orcs in a matter of seconds. This was the true power of an enchanted weapon. Calmly, he turned back to the dealers to resume business. New terms, he stated. Those 2 orc carcasses are now part of the deal. Let's talk price. He walked away feeling like a boss, having negotiated a payout 15% over the standard market rate. Seeing that massive bank balance felt surreal. Finally, his hard work was starting to pay off in cold hard cash. With the bodies sold, he could finally get back to the grind. Plus, he'd secured some serious street cred. The dealers agreed to a long-term partnership. No more wasting time looking for shady buyers to offload his loot. The dealer wasn't stupid. He realized Jin-Yuk wasn't some low-level thief trying to sell stolen junk. He was clearly a high-caliber hunter who could solo orcs without breaking a sweat. A legendary asset indeed. However, even with his OP bat, Jin-Yuk knew his current gear wouldn't hold up against higher-rank dungeon threats. There was only one way to get an upgrade, and if he played it smart, he wouldn't pay a cent. The next day, he showed up with a massive crate of booze as a peace offering for the dwarf. Since the dwarf thought aluminum was legendary orichalcum, this crate of cans was basically a king's ransom. The dwarf couldn't believe his eyes at the treasure. He cracked a beer open, expecting the nectar of gods. He spat it out instantly, hating the taste. To stop a tantrum, Jin-Yuk pulled out the secret weapon soju. The clear liquor did the trick for now, though the old blacksmith grumbled that it still lacked enough kick. Seeing his chance, the dwarf handed Jin-Yuk a quest. He needed a specific material mined from the depths. He tasked Jinook with excavating mithril ore. The connection between mining and drinking was a total mystery, but Jinook wanted that free legendary gear, and he wasn't in any position to turn down a quest. If mining was the price for power, he was down. He ventured deeper into the shadows of the labyrinth. He eventually reached a massive forest clearing. This area was way more expansive than he had ever imagined. A system notification pinged he had successfully breached the second floor of the dangerous labyrinth. The environment shifted dramatically as he began his hunt for the mithril ore in this new, uncharted floor. The quest for mithril was finally on. Navigating this death trap was risky, but the reward was worth it. A system prompt flashed offering to register a new warp point. Clueless but curious, Jinook accepted the shortcut. Instantly, a shimmering portal manifested, creating a direct bridge between the first and second floors. It was pure RPG logic in the flesh. With fast travel unlocked, Jinook dove deeper into the labyrinth's shadows. His goal was the rare mithril ore, but this level was a graveyard crawling with hellhounds and skeletons. Just like the first floor swarmed with goblins, this zone was packed with savage, mutated dogs. They lunged with bared fangs, yet they were significantly weaker than the brutal orcs he'd crushed before. To Jinook, they were just walking piles of free XP. He gripped his bat and charged. He tore through the advancing pack like a whirlwind, logging 25 kills before the dust even settled. After looting the remains, he crunched the numbers. These monster drops were looking like a literal gold mine. We're talking a massive 200 million won payout. Still, Jinook couldn't let the bag distract him. He stayed locked in on the mission. The real prize, that mithril ore, was still waiting to be mined. Pushing further, the clattering of bone echoed through the halls. Right on cue, the skeletons appeared. Skeletons were a total headache. No loot, no gold, just a bunch of worthless walking calcium. The only way to stop them was smashing their cores, turning the fight into a grueling endurance test. Worse, a massive wave of them was closing in. The odds were looking grim, but with his honed skills and high stats, Jinook pulverized the undead horde until the last bone shattered. Completely drained, a realization hit him. That dwarf definitely sent him here to do his dirty work. The old man just wanted to avoid these annoying mobs. But the grind actually paid off big time. Destroying the undead pushed Jinook to level 100. Finally, he was eligible for a class change. The system would now automatically assign his fate based on his previous combat style. After all that frontline carnage, he was fully expecting to become a savage berserker or a warrior. Instead, the system threw a curveball and designated him a cleric. Confused but determined, he pushed onward. He eventually struck the mithril vein, completing the task. The outcome was a total shocker. The dwarf never actually expected Jinook to walk out of that death trap alive. Yet, here he was. He was running on fumes from the constant warfare, but Jinook wasn't leaving empty-handed. Time for a little finder's fee. He low-key pocketed a generous portion of the mithril ore. That stuff looked way too expensive to pass up. He delivered the rest, leaving the dwarf speechless. Impressed, the dwarf offered to forge anything he wanted. Since his weapon was already OP, he needed top-tier defense. He requested armor that could tank heavy hits while staying light and agile. The dwarf agreed and started immediately. But crafting legendary gear takes more time than Jinook had. He headed home to catch a quick power nap, waking up roughly 6 hours later. Returning to the workshop, he found the dwarf had finished the masterpiece. The old smith looked proud. It was a sleek mithril chainmail, perfect for hiding under everyday clothes. Tucked under his hoodie, it was invisible. Suddenly, without warning, the dwarf smashed a hammer into his chest. No warning, just a full-force strike. Apparently, a practical demonstration was the dwarf's preferred explanation. That impact should have shattered his ribs. Instead, Jinook felt nothing. Absolute god-tier protection. With this insane armor and his legendary bat, Jinook's combat power was officially breaking the scale. Meeting this dwarf was the ultimate level up. But the old man had one more surprise waiting. He presented a massive barrel filled with Jinook's soju. Back home, Jinook finally took a sip. The dwarf was right. Aging the liquor in a mithril cask had transformed it into something divine. The taste was otherworldly, and suddenly, a brilliant business idea sparked in Jinook's mind. He hit up his black market contact with a new deal: premium monster drops and elite liquor. While Jinook planned his riches, the Titan Guild was finishing a training session across the city. They were stationed by the new gates, but their routine exercise was about to turn into a nightmare. A massive wave of lizardmen flooded the portals. It was a triple-threat anomaly gate, and it was opening. One beast down, but the horde was endless. A scout begged for backup, yet Doyon's ego stood in the way. As deputy leader, his pride was a death sentence. "Hold the line," he barked, refusing to admit they were drowning. Meanwhile, Jin-hook was vibing. He'd just locked in his official class, a cleric, and the system was finally showing him love. He'd even jumped from D to C rank. In this world, healers are basically legendary tier loot that every guild craves. Top-tier guilds scout them like pro athletes. For Jin-hook, this was his golden ticket to the big leagues. But his peace shattered when a blood-soaked hunter stormed in desperate eyes, scanning for a miracle worker to save his team. "I'm in," Jin-hook said, stepping up. Within minutes, he was being hauled toward a chaotic battlefield swarming with lizard men. The Titan Guild was mid-slaughter. Jin-hook got shoved to the back line with orders to just keep the tanks breathing. "Just heal and stay put," they told him. Jin-hook wanted to throw hands, but the guild had strict rules. "Stay back and play your part," the hunter snapped, focused only on the frontline carnage. "You'll get paid, just do your job." Having healers on deck gave the exhausted warriors a massive second wind. Hope flickered, but the lizard horde was a literal ocean of scales and teeth. They were still getting completely overwhelmed. "We need backup now," a healer screamed. Without extra firepower, they were all walking into a meat grinder. If the strategy didn't shift, the Titan Guild was toast. Then Jin-hook felt a chill down his spine. Something was lurking in the shadows behind them. A cold, murderous intent was locking onto the defenseless healers. Clang! His bat caught a jagged blade midair. A lizard man had ghosted past the entire front line for a sneak attack. It was a tactical strike: kill the healers, win the war. And Jin-hook was target number 1. The back line was wide open. If these beasts tore through the clerics, the frontline hunters would be flanked and slaughtered instantly. No time to think. Jin-hook gripped his bat, channeled his strength, and swung with a bone-shattering force. The monster flew back like a rag doll. "Stay focused on healing," he yelled. "I've got the perimeter covered." More shadows moved. These lizards were using high-level stealth to bypass the tanks and massacre the support staff. It was a total ambush. "Keep those heals flowing," Jin-hook commanded, stepping into the breach alone. "The lizards are mine." It was a suicide mission for any other healer, but Jin-hook wasn't normal. The others panicked, thinking their newbie cleric was about to get shredded. They didn't know he was built differently. While they trembled, Jin-hook charged. "Relax," he tossed back. "I've got this handled." He wasn't just talking big, his stats backed him up. Still, his pulse was pounding as the horde closed in. Even with the nerves, he stood like an iron wall, repelling every scaly assassin that dared to step close. But chaos reigned. One lizard man slipped through his guard, lunging straight for a defenseless healer's throat. Jin-hook lunged. He went airborne, slamming his bat down just in time to intercept the monster's lethal strike. He saved the healer but left his own back wide open. A jagged blade hissed through the air behind him. Tink, his dwarf chain armor ate the impact. The monster froze in shock as its blade failed to draw blood. Seizing the opening, Jin-hook spun and delivered a brutal bat-to-face combo that sent teeth flying everywhere. He was a one-man army. Thanks to his defense, the clerics could finally heal the front line without fearing a knife in the back. The tide was turning, but the real game-changer was about to make a grand entrance. The lizards suddenly paralyzed with fear. A massive presence descended onto the field like a falling star. One strike, one kill. Enter Seo Sang-ho, the legendary S-rank guild master of Titan, and he wasn't happy. "Did you clear these solo?" Sang-ho asked, eyeing the carnage. Jin-hook nodded, still processing the sheer power radiating off the man. "Yeah, that was me," Jin-hook replied, completely oblivious to whose presence he was in. The other healers gasped. How could he not recognize Sang-ho? The man was a literal living legend. Just having Sang-ho here meant the battle was already over. "Good work, kid." With a blur of speed, Sang-ho vanished, charging toward the front to end the nightmare. He promised a fat reward later, leaving Jin-hook in awe. S-rank hunters were just on a whole different level. It wasn't just hype. S-ranks were literal gods among men. Their power defied all common sense. Sang-ho plunged into the heart of the swarm, turning the battlefield into his own personal playground. Everyone's morale skyrocketed, everyone except Doyon, whose pride was currently taking a massive hit. Endion looked visibly triggered by the guildmaster's sudden arrival. Seeing a superior officer step in was normal, but his ego was bruised. His toxic pride made it impossible to accept help. He stood there, seething as Sang-ho took the stage. Sang-ho seized control instantly. He barked orders that shook the entire battlefield. Every eye locked onto him. Without waiting for his team to clear the blast zone, he prepped a devastating strike. Boom! He slammed the earth with raw power. A massive shockwave erupted, sending the lizardmen flying like ragdolls. One swing was all it took to clear the horde. Minutes later, thanks to Sang-ho's overwhelming might, the threat was erased. With his members safe, Sang-ho's fury turned toward Endion. He grabbed the deputy's jacket, ready to drop some truth. "What were you thinking?" he roared. He demanded to know why Endion gambled everyone's lives on a solo suicide mission. Endion tried to play the protecting the guild's honor card, but Sang-ho saw right through the pathetic lie. This wasn't about honor. It was about Endion's fragile ego. The air grew heavy as they locked eyes in a standoff. Their deadly glare was only broken when a member reminded Sang-ho to thank the volunteer clerics who saved them. Taking a breath, the guildmaster regained his cool. He approached the healers to offer his genuine gratitude. His gaze landed on Jin-hook. He knew this man was the real MVP who kept everyone breathing. As a reward, Sang-ho dropped a bombshell. He offered Jin Hyuk a spot in the guild, skipping the boring paperwork. Endion couldn't handle it. He immediately jumped in, trying to trash-talk Jin Hyuk and kill the vibe. He called him a lucky rank D loser, but Sang-ho wasn't having it. He shut his deputy down instantly. He reminded Endion that this rank D just cleaned up his mess and saved the lives he almost threw away. Sang-ho then forced the arrogant deputy to apologize. It was a crushing blow to Endion's social standing. Despite the offer, Jin Hyuk didn't budge. He coolly turned it down, surprising everyone in the vicinity. He made it clear he had zero interest in a guild that let clowns like Endion hold power. That was the final straw. Endion lunged with a powered-up fist, but Jin Hyuk's bat met his gut mid-air. One hit was all it took. Endion collapsed instantly. By the next morning, the news went absolutely viral. The Titan Guild's leadership was fuming. The scandal was a nightmare. They couldn't believe their deputy was clapped so easily. Publicly humiliated by a mere rank C. Unacceptable. They immediately stripped Endion of his authority and rank. The higher-ups demanded Jin Hyuk show his face and explain himself, but Sang-ho blocked their path. He stood his ground. Endion hadn't just risked lives, he'd assaulted a hero of the guild. His demotion was more than deserved. Sang-ho's cold logic left the council members completely speechless. With the argument settled, he dismissed them. He had no more time for their petty politics. Alone now, the guildmaster's mind drifted back to that mysterious rank C hunter and his insane skill. He made a vow he would recruit Kang Jin Hyuk at any cost before his power peaked. Meanwhile, our hero was chilling at home. Jin Hyuk was sipping a drink and scrolling through his bank account. Hunting had paid off big time, but his recent spending was getting out of hand. If he'd known he'd spend this much, he might have actually taken that bonus check from Titan. But it didn't really matter. He already had a much better way to farm infinite gold. After a quick recharge, he headed back into the darkness. It was time to harvest some fresh monster loot. Bullying low-level mobs was getting boring. With his new stats, he needed some real smoke. He pushed deeper into floor 2 than ever before. Suddenly, a pack of orcs appeared from the shadows. An orc tried to sneak attack from behind, but Jin Hyuk danced away with lethal precision. The beast dropped instantly. Suddenly, the hallway swarmed with green-skinned warriors hungry for blood. A few days ago, this was a death sentence. But with his new gear, it was just light work. He sliced through the mob like butter. By the end, 20 dead orcs littered the ground. That's enough profit to live like a king for a year. But Jin Hyuk wasn't finished yet. His stamina was still peaking. He decided to go even deeper, reaching the gate to the 3rd floor. Welcome to the Temple Guardian's Labyrinth. At first glance, the massive hall looked eerily empty. No monsters were in sight. However, something felt very wrong about this silent tomb. Tranquility is instantly shattered, as a violent tremor rips through the earth. A massive hand bursts from the dirt, nearly crushing Jinook as he barely rolls out of the way. It's a stone golem, a mana-fueled titan. Its strikes are blindingly fast, leaving him no room to breathe. Every heavy blow he blocks sends him flying backward, his bones rattling from the sheer impact. Cornered and desperate, Jinook realizes he has no choice but to strike back with everything he's got. This monster is pure brawn with zero brains. It hits like a truck, but moves like a puppet. Finding a fatal opening, Jinook shatters the golem's skull into a million rocky shards. The beast crumbles, but victory is fleeting. The rocks begin to swirl, knitting back together instantly. He forgot the golden rule of golems: you have to smash the core to kill it for good. Realizing his mistake, Jinook backs off, desperately trying to cook up a new game plan. Too slow. The monster's hand reforms in a flash, snatching Jinook before he can even retreat. He's trapped. But just as hope fades, a whistling arrow streaks through the air. It thuds into the golem's chest. Seizing the moment, Jinook drives his bat deep into the monster's heart. The core explodes, and the giant falls for good. That was way too close for comfort. Saved by a mysterious sniper, Jinook turns around, ready to thank whoever just saved his life. He freezes. Instead of the dwarf he expected, he's staring at a stunning woman with pointed ears. An elf. He bows to show his gratitude, unaware that she's already closing the distance. Before he can even look up, she lunges forward and grabs him roughly by the collar. She hauls him close, eyes narrowing. Who is this guy? She's never seen him in this dungeon before. She demands to know where he's from, clearly clueless about Earth or anything from Jinook's world. His clothes look like alien gear to her. She pelts him with questions while he struggles to escape. She finally lets go once he reveals he just entered today. That changes everything. It means he knows the way out. She shoves him aside, finally lowering her bow. She's found her ticket home. Jinook stands up, dusting himself off and demanding to know what her problem is. Ignoring his complaints, the elf coldly orders him to lead her straight to the dungeon's exit. He hates being bossed around, but she's honestly gorgeous, so he decides to let her attitude slide. For now. She promises a fat reward if he can actually get her out of this hellhole. She's Lucia, a platinum-rank mercenary. In her world, that's a guarantee of elite skill. This half-elf acts like a total celebrity, fully expecting Jinook to recognize her famous name. Chinook is just confused. Seeing his blank face, Lucia flexes her rank and flashes her official insignia. Still, nothing. She sighs, wondering if he's just some clueless kid from the middle of nowhere. Offended he doesn't know her, she asks where he's been hiding. I'm from Seoul, Korea, he replies. Now she's the confused one. Korea. That sounds like the work of a crazy high-level mage. A world-hopping spell might have actually succeeded. She breaks down the insane theory for him. A wizard from her world cursed this dungeon, accidentally ripping it through space and time, and dropping it right into his reality. It sounds like a bad movie, but it's actually happening. If she can reverse the spell, she can go home. Chinook knew this dungeon felt off. This confirms it, the dungeon is an intruder. But if it vanishes now, that's a huge problem. He asks if she's sending it back now, but she admits she's currently powerless to do so. Flipping the spell here is impossible. However, there's one specific spot that might just work. She found a secret chamber on this floor ages ago, while searching for a way out. She needs his help to get there, promising to make it worth his while with a reward. The deal sounds fair enough. Chinook agrees to play tour guide to the secret room. They head out shredding orcs along the way. Lucia is way more dangerous than she looks. That first arrow wasn't luck. Chinook realizes he definitely doesn't want to be on her bad side. Playing it cool and keeping their alliance steady was his best bet for now. After trekking deeper, they found a safe zone to catch their breath. Luckily, Jin Hyuk had some emergency chocolate stashed away. He shared a piece, and she was instantly hooked. Before he knew it, she had inhaled his whole stash and was demanding more. She kept pestering him, but he had to break the news that was the very last one. She finally relented, appearing satisfied enough to keep moving. Soon, they reached a massive hall, the lair of the dungeon boss. Lucia figured the mage's spell was hidden inside that very room, but to investigate, they would have to take down the big bad first. She told him to just sit tight and stay out of the way. His only job, landing the killing blow once she had softened it up. They shoved the doors open, and the beast let out a blood-curdling roar, charging straight for them. Lucia did not flinch, aiming her arrow right at its heart. Watch and learn, she said, channeling her aura to supercharge her shot. The arrow flew true, slamming into the armored titan and flipping it onto its back in one shot. One hit was all it took. This was the power she would teach him, but first, he had to end this. He had to smash the core before the thing could recover, just like with the golems. Diving onto the beast's chest, he started hammering away at where the core should be. But it was not going down easy. Suddenly, a massive fist came swinging at his head from the side. At the last second, he popped his holy shield, barely tanking the hit, and used that momentum to launch himself back into the fray. Realizing one hit was not enough, Jin Hyuk unleashed a flurry of blows until the monster went limp. With a final crack, the core shattered, putting the beast down for good. Victory. He leveled up again, inching closer to the level 200 milestone. With the room cleared, he turned to Lucia, ready to master the secrets of aura. But she just laughed, telling him he had already done it. His holy shield. That was his divine energy manifesting as aura. To him it was just a skill, but to Lucia that concept was totally alien. Honestly, his natural talent meant he would master aura way faster than she ever expected. With that kind of potential, he could probably start infusing his weapons with aura right now. But there was a catch. She wanted a tuition fee, more of those delicious chocolates from his world. Meanwhile, back in the city, Sang-ho and his secretary Lee Hyena were eyeing a new anomaly near Gangnam Station. It popped up yesterday, giving them just 5 days before a high-tier monster spawns into reality. No matter how he crunched the numbers, Sang-ho knew his guild could not tank this alone. Problem was, every other top guild was busy overseas. The Titan Guild was the only heavy hitter left in Korea. Hyena was scrambling to find talented local freelancers, but the list was full of nobodies. Sang-ho, however, had one specific person in mind. Talk about perfect timing there, he was crossing the street right in front of them. Sang-ho ditched the meeting and bolted after Jin Hyuk. Jin Hyuk was hauling a massive load of elf-requested snacks when the guildmaster's voice stopped him cold. Once again, Sang-ho tried to recruit him, but Jin Hyuk was not budging. Seeing he could not sign him full-time, Sang-ho pivoted, offering a sweet mercenary contract instead. He would get the freedom of a freelancer with the massive payday of a pro. Now that sounded interesting. Jin Hyuk promised to think it over before heading back to the dungeon. He delivered the goods to the elf who went to town on the snacks. It was clear. Her world did not have anything this tasty. Post-snack, Jin Hyuk asked why she was still chilling in the boss room. With the boss dead, she pointed to a glowing circle on the ceiling, explaining, it was the bridge between their two worlds. For now, she was not going anywhere. She needed to study it, and if he wanted more aura lessons, he better keep the chocolate coming. Snacking finished, she grabbed his hand to start the real training. Step 1. She had to pulse her own aura through him. Instantly, Jin Hyuk felt a surge of raw energy coursing through his veins. Lucia senses a violent eruption of energy inside Jin Hyuk's veins. His raw talent for aura manipulation is far beyond her wildest expectations. The divine energy pulses through him with terrifying precision. Watching the holy power circulate, Lucia realizes he is a true natural. She is certain he will master the fundamentals by sunset. Grinning, she acknowledges his monstrous potential with a rare word of praise. "Can you memorize that flow?" she asks. Jinook nods, confirming the sensation is burned into his mind, earning a sharp look of approval. She turns to exit the chamber. Her original mission was to probe the magic circle, but fate has other plans today. Molding Jinook into an aura master is now her top priority. She decides the fastest way to learn is through pure chaos. Theory is useless. He needs blood and steel. Lucia drags him deeper into the dungeon's shadows for a practical lesson. She shoves him headfirst into a sea of monsters. Goblins and kobolds swarm him instantly, forcing Jinook into a desperate defensive dance. Even while looting their corpses, he is fuming. "Why the hell am I fighting a small army right now?" he shouts toward Lucia. He was supposed to be training aura, not wading through monster guts. Lucia just smirks, ready to drop some harsh truth. "Battle is your only teacher," she declares. The tiny spark of mana she gifted him was just a taste of what is possible. Now he must find the rest of that power within himself. His survival depends on manually triggering that dormant aura through sheer will. Nothing awakens a warrior's killer instinct like a life or death struggle. Lucia believes the forge of combat will temper his soul perfectly. Jinook is beyond livid at her lack of communication. She did not explain a single thing before tossing him to the wolves. Zero warning, just pure chaos. Suddenly the earth quakes as a massive stone golem erupts from the dungeon floor like a nightmare. The beast bellows, a deafening roar, swatting Jinook aside like a fly. Lucia calmly watches, insisting only a true crisis unlocks hidden power. To evolve, he must focus. She commands him to reach inward and grasp the holy power pulsing beneath his skin. That shield is not just a skill, it is his gateway. She reveals the shocking truth: his defense is actually forged from pure aura. If he can just feel the aura within that shield, everything will click. It is the shortcut he needs to master this divine art. Easier said than done right. The holy shield triggers automatically, leaving Jinook scrambling to sense energy from a skill he cannot control. How can he master what he cannot touch? The golem's massive fist rains down, and once again the holy shield flares to life. Wait, something is different. He feels a strange heat swirling around his left hand, the very limb that triggers the defensive skill. This has to be it, the true essence of holy power. The golem winds up for another bone-crushing strike, determined to flatten him. Jinook calls forth the shield again, but the light warps into a jagged, unfamiliar form. Something in his soul has shifted. The feeling is electric, completely unlike before. He realizes he is finally tapping into his own mana reservoir. The golem does not care. No time for a victory lap. The monster smashes the shield with mountain-level force, sending Jinook tumbling through the dirt. Lucia laughs from the sidelines. "I said learn the skill, not practice your faceplants," she teases, mocking his clumsy attempt at mastery. He ignores her sarcasm and digs his heels in. He is following her insane instructions, bracing for the next lethal blow. Suddenly, a status window chimes in his vision. He has just unlocked a game-changing new ability, Holy Power Application. This skill lets him infuse every strike and block with divine energy. The more power he pours in, the deadlier he becomes. This changes everything. It turns out you do not need a fancy class change to gain power. Raw experience can forge new skills. Lucia notices him spacing out and steps forward. Fighting a massive golem, while juggling new aura concepts, might be too much for him. She offers to put the beast down herself, thinking he has reached his limit. But Jinook is not ready to quit just yet. He snaps back to reality, signaling her to back off. With a new grip on his powers, he is ready for round 2. "I have got this," he growls. He sprints toward the Titan, leaping high into the air as a massive stone fist whistles past. High in the air, he floods his bat with mana. Executing a perfect front flip, he uses the momentum to build crushing force. He slams the glowing bat straight onto the golem's skull. The creature staggers and falls, but Jinook is not done with his prey yet. He drops onto its chest like a meteor, channeling every ounce of mana into his weapon. He brings the bat down with apocalyptic force. That single strike births a new legend, Holy Aura. His bat glows with blinding light as he drives it deep into the golem's heart. The core shatters into a million pieces. Mastering Holy Aura has triggered a cascade of powerful new skills in his system. Precision strike and unyielding are now part of his arsenal. Thanks to Lucia's brutal training, he has walked away with 3 powerhouse skills. Lucia is stunned. He did not just survive. He mastered aura application in the middle of a literal war zone. His growth is terrifyingly fast. She only meant to teach him the basics and go home, but this development changed everything. Now she has to see how far this monster can go. With one casual arrow, she demolishes a nearby wall, exposing a new path. Behind that wall, an even bigger, hungrier horde of monsters. Jinook sighs, but his grip on the bat has never been tighter. Gritting his teeth, he gears up for the next clash. Those dungeon beasts really ran him ragged. By the time he hits the black market to offload the loot, he is running on empty. He looks so wrecked that the boss, Jun Chul, does a double take at his state. Jin Hyuk looks like he just crawled out of a war zone, but the boss keeps it professional. Skipping the small talk, he takes the monster hauls and shifts the conversation to that legendary liquor. Jin Hyuk's previous batch was a hit. Junchul rebranded it as high-end artisan soju, and ever since the launch, pre-orders have been exploding. The drink went viral so fast that Jin Hyuk could basically retire today and live like a king just off the booze money. With his pockets fat and a thriving side hustle, Jin Hyuk finally heads home to crash. Lucia's brutal training regimen left his body screaming for mercy. The moment his head hits the pillow, he is out cold, but his peace is shattered by a piercing disaster siren and a booming automated warning. It is an evacuation order. The monster invasion has officially begun, and the streets are descending into pure chaos. The horde arrived ahead of schedule. While most raids are random, this specific nightmare follows a rigid, one-month cycle. These predictable strikes were Jin Hyuk's bread and butter, usually serving as his low-level farming ground for quick cash. But today, he is way too drained to even care about the profit. He figured the heavy-hitter guilds could handle the mess without him needing to lift a finger. That was the plan until a notification pinged his phone. The invasion's threat level had skyrocketed, tripling all monster bounties instantly. With a payday that massive, Jin Hyuk's exhaustion suddenly vanishes. He hits the pavement ready to turn these monsters into cold, hard cash. Meanwhile, security forces are scrambling to evacuate civilians and reclaim the frantic streets. The Titan Guild is clashing with endless monster swarms, but their front line is already buckling under the pressure. Drowning in a sea of beasts, Sang-ho's stamina is hitting the red zone. To keep swinging, no matter how many heads he lops off, the horde just keeps growing. The hunters are at their limit. They look like they are winning, but the tide is secretly turning against them. Hyena, the guild secretary, watches the carnage with a grim expression. It looks stable on the surface, but she can see the guildmaster is being pushed to the brink. They are desperate for just one heavy hitter to tip the scales. Suddenly, she remembers the wild card her boss had been eyeing, a promising new talent. She dials Jin Hyuk, who is currently busy turning a pack of goblins into minced meat. He picks up and she offers him a spot on the Titan Guild's front lines. For a massive payout, Jin Hyuk does not blink, demanding 5 times the standard rate to join the fray. She calls for a quick face-to-face to hammer out the details. When they meet up, she counters with 4 times the pay. He plays it cool before finally agreeing to the deal. She hands him a tracker to log his kill count. If his performance is truly God tier, he will walk away with every penny he demanded. Armed with a lucrative contract and a chance to flex, Jin Hyuk charges toward the chaos. Hyena watches him go, doubting if this kid can actually live up to Sang-ho's hype. To her, his victory over Endoan was just a fluke. His real power is still a total mystery. He slides onto the battlefield and instantly guns for a massive rampaging ogre, leaving everyone speechless. One flash of his blade and the beast drops dead. The crowd is convinced they are witnessing an A-rank powerhouse. Minimum. Little do they know, A rank is just the floor for Jin Hyuk's true potential. He pops a mana potion to top off his reserves. Thanks to Lucia's hellish training sessions, he has finally hit level 200. Usually soloing an ogre would be a death sentence, but now, as long as his mana holds out, he can move like an absolute S-rank legend. With over 1,500 mana potions in his inventory, these monsters are not threats, they are just walking bags of cash. Meanwhile, across the city, Endoan is busy clearing mobs with his crew when he notices the monster count dropping fast, drawing his attention to the crowd. Watching a mysterious figure slaughter monsters like fodder, he investigates only to find his most hated rival. He snaps at the frozen hunters to stop dazing and start fighting, his mind racing. Why is Jin Hyuk even here? Who let this guy in? Just seeing Jin Hyuk's face triggers Duan's trauma from that humiliating viral defeat. That disgrace was blasted all over the news. He convinces himself it was a fluke. This time things will be different. Since Jin Hyuk is solo, taking him down and putting him in his place should be a total breeze. Decision made, he charges at Jin Hyuk, eager to cure his annoying habit of showing up in the worst spots. Bad timing. Unfortunately for Duan, the C-rank hunter spots him instantly and executes a flawless counter. Duan gets sent flying into a deep sleep again. Jin Hyuk is honestly too busy to deal with this random lunatic. Elsewhere, Sang-ho stares down a frenzied minotaur. His mana is tapped out and his stamina is hitting 0. The beast hoists its club for the kill. Just as Sang-ho thinks about retreating to recover, a voice echoes out. Jin Hyuk descends from the heavens, grabs the minotaur's horn, and slams that monster face first into the dirt. A C-ranker one-shotting a minotaur. It seems Sang-ho's hunch about Jin Hyuk's hidden power was spot on. With the beast dead, Sang-ho tries to thank him, but Jin Hyuk just brings up the phone call. The secretary promised a fat paycheck for this backup, so there's absolutely no need for gratitude. Sang-ho shoots his shot again, inviting Jin Hyuk to the guild. He promises that teaming up will lead to glory. Hunts like this will be daily. Jin Hyuk pauses to weigh the offer before giving his final answer. He'll decide once the remaining trash mobs are cleared. Suddenly, Sang-ho's phone rings. It's urgent. Hina screams to look up. The sky has turned pitch black, swirling with hellfire and chaotic lightning. A colossal, menacing shadow lurks in the storm, and it isn't friendly. It begins raining down lethal lightning. The bolts strike everyone indiscriminately, leveling skyscrapers. The entity is hovering at an unreachable height. Their skills are useless at this range. It's a total nightmare. The monster is literally untouchable. Sang-ho suggests regrouping at HQ to plan their next move, and he wants Jin-yuk with him. Jin-yuk agrees, and they lock themselves in the office, running every tactical simulation imaginable. The results are grim. Nothing can hurt it or block its strikes. Every single strategy is completely nullified. They need massive firepower and extreme range, a weapon that can hit the heavens themselves. Lucia flashes through Jin-yuk's mind. Suddenly, a wild, viable path to victory actually exists. While Jin-yuk goes to get Lucia, the Titan guild suits are whining about Sang-ho's obvious favoritism. They're salty over the C-rank hype. Other hunters scramble to find a way to kill the beast themselves. They want to bypass Jin-yuk, but they're hit with a cold reality. No other method actually works. Their only hope is trusting the guy with the plan. They even toy with the idea of calling Gadia. Gadia is full of elite mages, but they're notorious for their cold indifference toward human life. Summoning them means accepting mass casualties. The room falls into a heavy, suffocating silence. Waiting is the only option. Back at the crib, Jin-yuk steps out of the portal with Lucia. He thanks her for coming, bribing her with the ultimate reward, an endless supply of sweet treats. They head to the rooftop of Titan HQ. Jin-yuk points out the monstrosity terrorizing the city below. He asks if she can take it down, and she confidently gives the green light. That thing is huge. She claims she could snipe it, blindfolded. The system identifies it as a terrifying level 300. This is the highest level beast ever recorded. She's got this, but she needs one small favor first. The roof is too flimsy for her massive output. She needs him to deploy a serious shield. He has to absorb the recoil, or this entire block is going to be leveled. Prep is done. Jin-yuk calls the boss to warn him about the inevitable collateral damage coming. The surroundings are toast. Sang-ho tells him to ignore the bills and just focus on the kill. His only mission is slaying that beast. With the green light given, Jin-yuk conjures a massive barrier. Lucia notches 2 arrows, channeling insane energy. She locks her sights on the target in the storm. Jin-yuk braces his shield as Lucia charges her twin shot. She takes a breath, aims, and lets fly. The blast unleashed a massive shockwave, slamming Jin-yuk backward, even with his protective shield deployed. Twin orbs of pure energy streaked across the sky, obliterating the beast in a mere heartbeat. One shot was all it took. The devastating impact vaporized half the monster's massive body instantly. Below, the Titan Guild watched in total shock. They never imagined he'd handle the situation this easily. Hunter Kang Jin-yuk keeps defying logic. Lucia's power was so intense it left nothing but scorched earth behind. Smoke scarred the helipad. Clearly holding back wasn't an option in a life-or-death fight like this. That display of power was insane, yet Lucia just looked disappointed since the monster was way too weak. It wasn't the monster's fault, though. Lucia's power level is simply on a whole different dimension. She outclasses every beast on Earth. Regardless, the target was eliminated, and the mission was a success. Time to head out. She handed Jin-yuk a tracker to log his newly earned massive point total. 240 points popped up. As she turned to leave, she dropped a chilling final warning. She warned him not to trust anyone. When the stakes are high, human greed blinds even the best judgment. She cautioned him about betrayal for wealth, drawing from the scars of her own past adventures. Jin-yuk insisted he could handle himself. They parted ways as he disappeared back into the city streets. Sang-ho and his secretary cornered him, desperate to know how he took down that colossal beast alone. He kept his mouth shut, calling his methods a secret. One accompanying director took major offense to his attitude. The man sneered, refusing to believe a mere C-rank hunter could slay such a high-level threat. Jin-yuk just flashed his tracker. The massive point score proved he was the one who finished it. Sang-ho quickly apologized for the director's rudeness, but the man just glared back with pure hatred. He was fuming that Sang-ho prioritized a C-ranker over the loyalty of his own guild members. Convinced Sang-ho was ruining the guild's future, the director pulled out his phone to make a shady call. After one anonymous call, rumors about the incident spread through the city like a localized wildfire. News hit that a random C-ranker soloed the boss, leaving the Titan Guild members buzzing with skepticism. The facts were undeniable. Plus, whispers claimed the guildmaster personally invited this mysterious hunter to join. He rejected a direct offer to join Titan. People wondered just how cracked this guy really was. His insane confidence caught everyone's eye, and eventually the rumors reached the ears of the Ultron Guild. They heard Hunter Do-yoon was hospitalized. Even with his elite skills, he barely survived the monster raid. Word was, the C-ranker was the one who actually beat him. If true, this was massive news. Everything was starting to line up. Ultron scouts decided they needed to track Jin-yuk down immediately. They had to see it for themselves. Was he a hidden class user? That was their working theory. Hidden classes are ultra rare. If he has one, they'd do whatever it takes to scout him. They had to move fast, recruit him, or eliminate him before a rival guild got their hands on him. Meanwhile, Jin-hyuk was out cold. The intense battle drained him, and he collapsed the moment he got home. 2 days later, he finally woke up from his exhaustion-induced coma and walked into a total mess. Lucia had absolutely wrecked his snack stash, leaving empty wrappers scattered across the entire living room. She claimed she had no choice. The fridge was a desert, and those snacks were her only survival option. After devouring everything, she dropped another bombshell. She couldn't even return to the dungeon. Apparently, he hadn't activated the portal for her. Jin-hyuk was completely baffled by this new rule. He'd never had to manually open it before. As far as he knew, that gate stayed open 24/7. He led her to the attic to prove it was still there, but things were about to get weird. Lucia swore the space was empty just minutes ago. She told him to take a step back. The moment he moved, the portal vanished into thin air. It only existed when he was near. He was speechless. To him, the dungeon had always been just a few steps away at any time. Lucia dropped a theory. This dungeon is bound to his soul. It follows him wherever he goes. This game-changing discovery flipped his entire world upside down. He wasn't just a hunter. He was the anchor. It felt as if the dungeon had branded itself onto his very soul. The implications were bone-chilling. A direct manifestation could have erased him, but a botched incantation luckily spared his life this time. Pushing those dark thoughts aside, he decided to order a massive feast for the two of them instead. Lucia tilted her head, wondering how on earth he even located the flat after that chaotic monster brawl. She admitted to placing a high-level perception barrier on the building, making it virtually invisible to anyone seeking Jinook. When Jinook asked why, she explained that a swarm of shady characters kept loitering around while he was unconscious. Scouts from the Ultron and Guardian guilds were thirsty for info, and their constant pestering was getting super annoying. She dropped the spell to ghost them permanently. Jinook couldn't fathom why top-tier guilds were suddenly hunting for him. He scrolled through his phone to catch up on the chaos. The top trending headline instantly made his heart drop. Breaking news about his victory over the colossal beast was blowing up every social media platform. Viral footage clearly captured him dominating the battlefield alongside the legendary Titan Guild for the whole world to see. He'd achieved main character status overnight, but in this world, being famous was a total death sentence. His thirst for power and reliance on Lucia's insane magic had finally landed him in the scorching spotlight. The hunter scene is toxic and territorial. When a new threat emerges, the big players move fast to delete them. No use crying over spilled milk. Once Lucia finished eating, they headed back to the dungeon to see the dwarf. Unfortunately, Lucia's final blast was so overkill that the monster's carcass was basically reduced to useless scrap metal. Salvaging only the beast's head, the old blacksmith fumed at the elf for ruining precious materials. Pure beef radiated between them both. As the insults flew, Jin-hyuk stepped in to kill the tension. Jin-hyuk asked if any gear could be forged. The dwarf reached deep into the skull, yanking out a prize. He pulled out the lightning-generating organ, the perfect core, to infuse Jin-hyuk's bat with electric fury. Now the bat would crackle with thunder. Jin-hyuk then asked the old man's price for the upgrade. The dwarf's only fee, getting that annoying elf out of his sight. Lucia started trembling with absolute rage. Jin-hyuk barely stopped her from blasting the dwarf. He had to bribe the angry girl with extra sweets. Narrowly avoiding a murder, he retreated to the city to hunt down snacks for the pouting elf. Heading home, a chill hit him near an alley. He wasn't alone. Someone was stalking him. Stashing his groceries behind a wall, he called out to the rat, tailing him in the dark. A shocked voice echoed. Suddenly, a figure shimmered into existence and lunged at Jin-hyuk with lethal speed. A blade whistled toward his throat. Jin-hyuk barely parried the strike with his trusty aluminum bat. The assassin gasped. Jin-hyuk's senses were insane. Clearly, the rumors about this guy weren't just hype. This wasn't some basic C-rank performance. Jin-hyuk shoved the intruder back and went on the offensive. If the masked freak wouldn't talk, Jin-hyuk would just have to beat the answers out of him. Time for a beatdown. Sensing he was outmatched, the shadowy attacker panicked and triggered a desperation skill. The assassin vanished into thin air again, but Jin-hyuk's honed instincts caught a faint ripple in space. He was fighting a ghost, yet that tiny trace was enough to predict the next lethal lunge. He was holding his own, but Jin-hyuk knew he couldn't play defense forever against an invisible blade. His OP bat would have ended this instantly, but it was still stuck in the workshop for repairs. Stuck with a standard bat, Jin-hyuk realized he needed to change the game or get sliced up. He bolted, but the hooded snake managed to slap a high-tech tracker onto Jin-hyuk's shirt as he fled. He dove into the crowd to vanish, unaware the assassin was tracking his every move via GPS. The signal led the invisible hunter into a department store restroom. He crept inside, cloaked in perfect camouflage. He kicked a stall door open ready for blood, but the cubicle was dead empty. Something was wrong. All he found was the tracker stuck to the wall. The hunter had become the hunted, a trap. Suddenly, Jin Hyuk appeared from the shadows, swinging his bat with crushing force in the cramped space. Stealth couldn't save him here. The assassin barely ducked the swing and lashed out with a jagged knife. The blade hissed toward his face, but Jin Hyuk dodged effortlessly and crushed the assassin's wrist in his grip. He slammed the rat into the floor. Gasping for air and pinned down, the assassin was officially toast. Bat raised, Jin Hyuk demanded a name. One wrong answer and the assassin's skull would meet the floor. Outside, a kid was having a bathroom emergency. Ignoring the closed sign, the boy rushed right in. The kid burst in just as the assassin was about to spill the beans. Talk about bad timing. That split-second distraction was all the killer needed. He conjured a lethal fireball, targeting them both. With the kid in the line of fire, Jin Hyuk had to burn mana on a shield to protect him. The killer vanished into the smoke. He was supposed to be a spy, not fight a monster. This job was way above his pay grade. But before he could escape, something cold pierced his chest. Game over. The hitman slumped dead. Jin Hyuk panted, realizing he'd accidentally used way too much force. While Jin Hyuk processed the kill, a system window pinged. Status, self-defense. No penalty for the fatality. No villain tag for him. Instead, a rare hidden class change notification flashed before his eyes. After that brutal bathroom brawl, Jin Hyuk stood outside waiting for the authorities to arrive. Usually killing another human earns you the dreaded villain brand. He was sure his life was over. For a cleric, a villain tag means your skills get sealed. Jin Hyuk thought his career was dead. But instead of a curse, the kill triggered an awakening. Two detectives then approached the stunned hunter. The officers moved in to get the full story, the lead detective eyeing him with suspicion. Detective Joe from the Hunter Bureau flashed his badge, asking Jin Hyuk for a moment of his time. Things were heating up. They'd already tracked down the rogue mage who tried to take him out. Jin Hyuk kept it real, detailing how the cornered caster completely lost his mind during the fight. The villain aimed to kill, dropping a massive fire spell, despite a kid being right in the crossfire. Fear gripped Jin Hyuk for the boy's safety, but the cops confirmed the little guy was mostly okay. Aside from some light burns, he was safe, and the family couldn't stop thanking their hero, Jin Hyuk. His clutch timing saved a life, and Jin Hyuk felt a massive weight lift off his shoulders. Forensics proved Jin Hyuk's god-tier reflexes saved the day, and since he stopped a literal criminal, they didn't expect any drama when it came to making this whole mess a legal matter. The verdict was clear, self-defense. They told him he was free to go once the paperwork finished. He expected a legal nightmare, but luckily, these guys were actually chill. That's when Detective Joe hinted that Jin Hyuk's clean record helped, especially since Hunter Law is a totally different ballgame. It's not your average court case, but there was another reason they were cutting him some slack. The clincher, he hadn't triggered the villain title, even though he'd sent someone to the afterlife. That dark label only pops up for cold-blooded killers, but it stays hidden if the kill was purely about survival. Every pro hunter knows this loophole, though nobody really talks about it out loud. If he kept his mouth shut about the system's mechanics, he'd skip the headache of a trial. But if he started yapping, things would get messy real fast for everyone involved in the case. The Bureau would face a PR disaster, so Jin Hyuk took the hint and played along perfectly. Still, the feds weren't about to trust him blindly. To play it safe and keep him on, Elish Joe handed him a specialized recording charm. He was ordered to keep it on him, 24/7. To be blunt, this little bug was a trap designed to trigger the moment he spoke 3 forbidden keywords. If he uttered murder, villain, or self-defense, the authorities would know instantly. It was a silent alarm. As long as he didn't leak the truth, he was totally in the clear. Detective Joe finally told him to head home and shake off the day's intense stress. He promised the pros would mop up the crime scene, while Jin Hyuk got some much-needed rest. Jin Hyuk nodded, heading out with a stone-cold face. The second he left, the detectives started whispering. They brought up the rumors of him soloing that new monster type, realizing the gossip was likely true. Any idiot could see he wasn't just some random C-ranker playing at being a hero today. He tanked a full-power fire blast without a scratch while keeping that kid perfectly safe from harm. That high-tier mage was a monster, definitely not someone an average hunter could ever hope to beat. It was official, Jin Hyuk's hidden potential was way more than just internet hype or urban legends. The Bureau was now dead certain that Kang Jin Hyuk's true ceiling was far above rank C. They hoped he'd stay out of trouble so they could stay allies. Finally, back in private, Jin Hyuk checked his new class Inquisitor. A legendary hidden job that wasn't even in the databases. He'd dreamed of this, but didn't expect it so soon. Boring descriptions weren't enough, though. He needed a live test. He let a nasty goblin close the distance to test his new defensive buffs. His old heals were gone, replaced by hard skin, a passive that turned his body into pure iron. He also unlocked a status resistance skill, making him practically immune to all kinds of nasty debuffs like poison or stuns. Now fully loaded, Jin Hyuk raised a fist toward his target. The word transformation finally made sense. His old support skills had evolved into a lethal, solo-focused kit. He could no longer cast Holy Aura, but in its place stood Fighting Spirit. which weaponized his energy for pure destruction. Squashing goblins with bare hands was now a complete breeze. Holy Shield was also gone, replaced by Defense Charge. Now he could bulldoze through enemy waves with absolute crushing force. He was a human tank obliterating every goblin in his path with zero effort. Battles were basically child's play now. He'd unlocked a heavy-duty shield and a lethal dash, plus total immunity to every debuff. Rebirthing as an Inquisitor effectively turned him into an unstoppable tank. With his combat kit fully tested, he shifted his focus to his utility skills. He'd snagged a karma reading ability that slapped a literal number on anyone's moral compass. Jin Hyuk flipped his phone to selfie mode and spotted a 64 floating above his head. Was that a high score? Without a baseline, he had no clue if he was a saint or a sinner, leaving him totally guessing about his own morality. Then he spotted another karma-based perk. His judgment skill, a massive stat amplifier that triggers when he faces someone with high karma. Specifically, he gets a 20% power boost against anyone with 200 karma, 50% at 300, and a staggering 100% against the 500 club. Basically, he becomes a god when fighting total scum. This trait alone makes the Inquisitor class live up to its hidden tier hype. It's a build literally designed to hunt down the world's villains. Done with his experiments, Jin Hyuk headed straight for the forge. When he arrived, the grizzled dwarf was just finishing the lightning enchantment on his signature bat. This weapon now holds 3 explosive lightning charges with a 30-minute cooldown to juice each one back up. Jin Hyuk was stoked about the upgrade. He asked for a demo and the dwarf kept it simple. The old man had bagged a kobold thief in his workshop and had it chained out back. It was the perfect guinea pig. The monster was snarling and snapping, but those restraints weren't budging. To trigger the lightning, Jin Hyuk didn't need flashy spells. He just had to swing. Visualizing the impact, the young man locked eyes with his target. He took a stance, like a pro batter ready for a fastball, feeling the raw voltage surging through the bat's core. Jin Hyuk took a deep breath, focused his intent, and boom, unleashed a sphere of pure electricity. The orb sizzled through the air like a comet. The moment it hit the kobold, let out a blood-curdling yelp. Thousands of volts ravaged its body. Just one charge was enough to instantly cremate the monster. The chains clattered to the floor as the creature crumbled into ash. Even its skeleton was scorched black, proving the terrifying lethality of the thunder charge. The dwarf looked pretty proud of his masterpiece. Having a ranged nuke was a total game-changer for Jin Hyuk. Once the demo wrapped, Lucia pulled Jin Hyuk aside for a private chat. The elf dragged him into a corner and snatched the weird pendant around his neck, demanding to know what he'd been doing outside. She sensed his divine power was totally gone, and that trinket was giving off major red flags. She was clearly worried he'd gotten into some shady business. The young man defended himself, swearing it was all a misunderstanding. He gave Lucia and the dwarf the summary of the chaos. He explained how a recent incident had warped his holy energy into something completely different. But there was a catch. The tracking device from the detectives meant he couldn't spill all the tea. The old dwarf had a simple fix. He offered to jam the device so they could hear the real story. The blacksmith was down to hack the tech, but first, Jin Hyuk had to run a little errand. The old man claimed it was just a minor favor in exchange for his professional services. He dug through his bag and tossed a compass to Jin Hyuk. One look at it and Lucia's face fell. She knew exactly where he was being sent, and she looked genuinely shook. Totally clueless. The young man wondered if he was heading into a death trap. That minor errand led Jin Hyuk to a nightmare mountain trail that straight up defied the laws of physics. Armed with basic gear, he rappelled into a bottomless abyss. He cursed the dwarf for sending him to such a hellhole, just to farm some ores. While the young man was fighting for his life during the descent, Lucia was chilling. She even had the nerve to roast him for struggling so much. She made it clear if he wanted to survive, he had to follow her every step. He knew better than to wander off alone if he wanted to stay out of trouble. Suddenly, Lucia flexed her insane agility. She took a leap of faith off the cliff, ditching the safety rope to scale the rock face with her bare hands. Jin Hyuk could only sigh, realizing he couldn't possibly pull off a legendary move like that so effortlessly. Lucia roasted him for being a total coward, claiming his unfounded fears were just holding him back for nothing. Without wasting another second, the elf plunged into the abyss, letting gravity do the work as she vanished below. Jin Hyuk realized she had a point. He was playing it too safe instead of trusting his new buffed physical stats. Finally, the young warrior let go of his safety line and followed Lucia, throwing himself into a wild freefall. It was time to push his body to the limit. As the ground rushed up to meet him, he braced for impact, sticking the landing perfectly right beside Lucia. Jin Hyuk finally understood his true potential. He wasn't some weak human anymore. The elf already knew his body was built different, pure superhuman strength through and through. Only his old mindset was holding him back. They took a breather on a jagged ledge to discuss the situation. Lucia worried that tampering with the tracking device might cause major drama for Jin Hyuk later on. But the old dwarf promised it was fine, and he wouldn't say that unless he had a secret plan in motion. The blacksmith was a total grump, but his skills were top tier. Even Lucia, who hated his guts, admitted he was legit. She was low-key obsessed with the karma points tied to Jin Hyuk's brand new hidden class. She checked her own level 82, the highest of the squad. Jin Hyuk was at 64, while the dwarf sat at 72. After the brutal life she'd lived, Lucia wasn't even surprised by her high score. Survival meant doing whatever it took. Still, the gap between her and Jin Hyuk was only 20 points. He'd only taken one life, whereas Lucia had lost count of her body count ages ago. She remembered legends of saints from her world, holy beings who could sniff out evil with a single glance. Jin Hyuk laughed off the saint comparison, and she agreed. Measuring darkness wasn't unique to this world after all. Honestly, Lucia didn't care about finding some dusty mine for the dwarf. She had a much bigger goal. She wanted to see exactly what the boy's new skills could do. When he asked why she was so curious, she just teased him, saying he was her favorite form of entertainment. Chilling in an empty dungeon was getting boring. To really grasp how karma worked, they needed to hit the streets. Lucia suggested returning to the surface for some field tests. Jin Hyuk felt a bit bad about ghosting the dwarf's errand, but he needed answers about his power. Lucia was right, they weren't going to learn anything new by hiding out in a dark hole. Realizing this, he reached into his pocket. Sorry, old man, but duty calls elsewhere. He pulled out a return stone, a rare item that would warp him straight back to the outside world. With a firm grip, he crushed the gem. Instantly, a shimmering dimensional rift tore open before them. Lucia barely had time to react before the portal's vacuum sucked her right in. Interestingly, ditching his mission actually bumped up Jin Hyuk's karma. Moments later, they hit the pavement of a bustling city. While Lucia grabbed a drink, Jin Hyuk started sweating. Her magical disguise was doing a terrible job of hiding them. She'd claimed her illusion would mask her elf features and let her blend in, but the plan was backfiring hard. Even in human clothes, the spell seemed to make her look like a main character, drawing eyes from everywhere. Every single person passing by was staring at the absolute goddess walking next to Jin Hyuk. Lucia just smirked, saying her beauty was simply too radiant to suppress. The camouflage was basically useless against her charm. Jin Hyuk wanted to argue, but honestly, he couldn't. She was easily the most stunning woman he'd ever laid eyes on. Shifting gears, Lucia broke down the mechanics of karma. It's pretty simple. Do bad stuff, and your score goes up. For example, Jin Hyuk earned a point just by breaking his word to the dwarf. Evil isn't just about violence. Karma builds up from all sorts of negative vibes. However, there are a few major exceptions to the rule. If the harm is consensual or purely self-defense, the system won't punish you. But they still needed a baseline. They did know one terrifying fact: once you cross the 200-point mark, you're officially labeled a villain. At that point, the system puts a target on your back. Hunting a villain doesn't count as murder anymore, because once you're that far gone, the system doesn't even consider you human. You're just a monster to be eliminated. If Lucia and the dwarf barely hit 100, anyone crossing 200 had to be a total monster. Jinook scanned the crowds all day but couldn't find a single normie with a score over 50. Hunting for high karma in these peaceful areas was a waste. They were looking in the wrong places. It was time to hit the slums. Luckily, finding a hive of scum and villainy was easy enough. They entered the red light district, where Lucia marveled at the neon glow, painting the midnight streets. She wondered if the lights would lure monsters, but Jinook quickly set the record straight for her. Earth wasn't like her world. Monsters didn't just roam the city. Still, the elven warrior found the vibe disgusting. The district felt filthy to Lucia, even if she had to admit, the neon lights looked pretty cool. Every world has its perks, she figured. Suddenly, a shady barman blocked their path with a greasy smile. He complimented Lucia's looks, claiming their bar had a special VIP event just for gorgeous ladies like her. Free drinks for pretty girls. Lucia just shoved him aside like trash and kept walking without a word. But before she could leave, Jinook grabbed her shoulder, signaling her to stop right there. He insisted they stay. After all, why turn down free alcohol when it's offered on a silver platter? The barman beamed, ushering them inside while promising Lucia the absolute royal treatment in his establishment. After hours of seeing nothing but boring karmic scores, Jinook had finally hit the jackpot. Hovering above the barman's head was a karma value of 300. This guy was a real deal villain. The duo settled at the bar and started knocking back the drinks served by the smiling snake. Lucia loved the sugary taste, blissfully unaware that the barman was snickering in the shadows. He'd laced their drinks with a lethal toxin. A single drop was enough to paralyze a grown man instantly. Smirking at his easy prey, the barman signaled his hidden thugs to move in for the kill. The goons swarmed Jinook first, but the young warrior was already 3 steps ahead of them. Jinook just laughed. Thanks to his status resistance skill, the poison was nothing more than flavored water. With a lightning-fast pivot, Jinook smashed his fist into an assailant's jaw, wearing a cold, dangerous smirk. Finally, a chance to unleash his power. He launched a devastating punch that rattled the entire room. The blow sent 2 thugs flying across the bar like ragdolls. The sheer force was absolutely insane. His strength was on a different level. Without letting them breathe, he lunged forward to finish the job. He spun with lethal grace, delivering a brutal roundhouse kick straight to another goon's face. One hit was all it took to knock him cold. Meanwhile, Lucia was finally shaking off the haze. As the paralysis faded, she blinked and saw the floor littered with the bodies of defeated thugs. Jinook had wiped them all out. Confused, Lucia asked what the hell she had missed while zoning out. Jinook just shrugged. He was just taking out the trash. Panicked, the barman desperately called for his trump card. Enter the enforcer Buzzcut. He ripped off his jacket, revealing muscles that looked like carved granite. He knew Jinook was a threat and charged with the speed of a freight train aiming to kill. But the duo just watched him bored. Jinook tracked the massive tank, rushing him with icy indifference. Lucia took another sip of her spiked drink and casually asked if Jinook needed a hand. He waved her off, completely confident he could crush this guy without breaking a sweat. Being ignored set Buzz cut off. Enraged, he threw a haymaker backed by his entire body weight. Jinook caught the massive fist effortlessly. No matter how much Buzzcut struggled, he couldn't budge an inch. Panic set in. Buzzcut realized this kid wasn't human. He had to be a high-ranking hunter. Buzzcut, himself, fought like a veteran hunter, making this realization even more terrifying. If Jinook was a hunter, why was he wasting time playing around in a shady back alley bar? The enforcer never expected to run into a literal monster during a routine shakedown operation. Completely outclassed, Buzzcut's mind raced as he desperately looked for a way to escape alive. But Jinook wasn't finished. With a cold flick of his wrist, he mercilessly crushed the man's fist. A sickening crunch echoed through the bar as Buzzcut screamed, his bones shattering into pieces. Jin-hyuk wasn't done. He smashed Buzzcut's mouth with a brutal punch, sending him flying backward. The man crashed uncontrollably through the bar chairs before stopping. With the muscle dealt with, only the terrified bartender remained. Jin-hyuk lunged forward, locking the villain in a lethal chokehold. He tightened his grip, nearly crushing the man's throat as he hoisted him off the floor. As the coward gasped for air, the interrogation began. Of course, Jin-hyuk knew words were useless without some pain. He began decorating the bar walls with the villain's blood. By the end, Jin-hyuk's knuckles were stained a deep, dark red. The guy's face was mangled beyond recognition. Now the real questioning could finally start. It was obvious this wasn't the bartender's first shady racket. Running an operation like this required a powerful benefactor. The man kept lying, but Jin-hyuk knew a small-time crook couldn't drug and kidnap women for this long without getting caught. Those hired thugs had to be connected to a bigger network. You don't get muscle without serious resources. Jin-hyuk gave him one last icy stare, a final chance to talk. Even after the thrashing, the bartender still refused to name his boss. This level of stubborn silence only meant one thing: his employer was way scarier than the beating he was currently receiving. To break him, Jin-hyuk decided to level up the pain. He grabbed the man's ankle and pulled. The villain shrieked in pure terror. Jin-hyuk just smirked, saying he was providing motivation to confess. The bartender tried to act tough, claiming violence wouldn't make him talk, but Jin-hyuk begged to differ. Before things got truly gruesome, Lucia stepped in, telling him to stop his barbaric methods. A mysterious energy began to swirl in her palm as she reached for the man's face. Instantly, his terror melted into an eerie, blank relaxation. Despite his bloody appearance, Lucia's power surged through his system, silencing the room. After a brief silence, his face twisted into a mask of pure, demonic insanity. He began babbling, asking if they represented an organization called Ultron. He frantically screamed that, no matter what Ultron did, it was already too late. Whatever magic Lucia used had shattered his mind. Now, the bartender couldn't stop himself from confessing. She didn't expect him to lose his marbles and start spilling every dark secret uncontrollably. He laughed, calling Ultron trash because his precious tyrant guild was about to wipe everyone out. Finally, the true mastermind was revealed. The Tyrant Guild. This rabbit hole went way deeper than Jin-hyuk ever imagined. He grilled the deranged man about why he was so confident in the Tyrant Guild's power. The man simply grinned and whispered one name, the Elon Elixir. Jin-hyuk was totally lost. He had no idea what the man was talking about. As sirens wailed, the duo vanished into the shadows before the police could arrive. They had accidentally stumbled into a massive conspiracy involving the highest levels of power. Lucia explained that the Elon Elixir is a forbidden drug that doubles a user's stats, but its creation requires sacrificing countless innocent women. She couldn't believe an Earth Guild was capable of such pure evil. It was sickening that humans were actually trying to mass-produce a substance equivalent to that elixir. In her world, it was feared as the Queen's tear. One of Lucia's best friends had been butchered as fertilizer for that poison years ago. Later, once Lucia hit platinum rank, she personally hunted down the organization responsible. No wonder she'd been so stone-faced since they left the bar. This was personal. The only question now was their next move. Since the bartender said the elixir was almost ready, they had to destroy the Tyrant Guild immediately. As the sirens faded from the bar, a mysterious figure cloaked in midnight shadows took center stage. Hidden behind a tactical mask and dark lenses, the operative reported the gruesome details to his masters. His investigation confirmed the chilling truth. This wasn't some minor internal feud gone wrong. The killers were surgical, executing only the bartender before vanishing like phantoms into the night. Their unorthodox methods didn't fit any known rival, forcing the masked man to hunt these ghost disruptors. With lethal confidence, he vowed to track down and apprehend the perpetrator before the trail went cold. Meanwhile, at the Titan Guild, the heavy hitters were busy closing major deals across the ocean. Elite Secretary Lee Hyena reported that their Hong Kong venture was smashing every performance target. If this explosive growth continued, the guild was poised to expand its ranks by 15% soon. Despite the guild's success, Chairman Seo Sang-ho was drowning in a sea of overwhelming stress. The news of Alan's forbidden elixir haunted him, a secret Hyena was completely unaware of. The Hunter Association had been working overtime to bury any trace of this nightmare from the public. With overseas business reaching a boiling point, Hyena couldn't just drop everything and return to Korea. This meant Sang-ho was effectively on his own, forced to navigate the coming storm solo. He barked an urgent order to Hyena, demanding an immediate guild-wide broadcast of his new directive. Effective immediately, the Titan Guild was declaring total unrestricted war against the Tyrant Guild. Reeling from the shock, Hyena begged for clarification before they plunged the entire guild into chaos. Sang-ho's reply was grim: failing to prepare now would only lead to a total massacre later. If his intel proved accurate, waiting for the first strike would be a fatal mistake for everyone. Hyena demanded to know what kind of terrifying information could trigger such a reckless, uncharacteristic move. Sang-ho knew exactly what he was doing. This was a direct challenge to a massive superpower. He assured her that the Ultron Guild and even the government would back them when things exploded. Even with high-level support, starting a war of this scale carried a devastating risk for everyone. Hyena pleaded with him to consult the executives and find a more rational, calculated strategy. But Sang-ho's mind was made up, his resolve harder than any steel. His vision had never been clearer, and he had zero time for useless meetings or red tape. Looking into his cold, unwavering eyes, Hyena realized the leader's decision was absolutely final. The normally cautious strategist was now making a gamble that would change the world forever. He needed her absolute trust, asking her to execute the order in total secrecy for now. They would start with shadow investigations before making a formal public declaration of war. Sang-ho had already identified several internal targets, but he needed the catalyst for this madness. A single text from Jin Hyuk had exposed the Tyrant Guild's horrific plan involving human sacrifice. Meanwhile, Lucia was vibing at Jin Hyuk's place, raiding his snacks while questioning his next move. She was low-key relieved to find that leaders like Seo Sang-ho still had a soul. She remarked that if no one else stepped up to crush Tyrant, she'd have handled it herself. The inhumane truth behind Alan's elixir made their destruction an absolute moral necessity. Jin Hyuk sighed, asking when the hungry elf planned to head back to the dungeon instead of eating. Lucia wasn't going back to a boring dungeon and missing out on an epic guild raid. She sensed the Tyrant Guild was full of monsters far more dangerous than ordinary hunters. Only the truly depraved would concoct such a vile substance at the cost of human lives. Even Jin Hyuk had to admit that soloing a massive organization was currently out of his reach. Lucia officially offered her legendary support to help him wipe out those scoundrels for good. Suddenly, a heavy pounding echoed at the door, someone shouting for Kang Jin Hyuk. He wasn't expecting guests, and the sudden interruption felt like a bad omen. Could it be the masked hunter from the bar finally closing in on his target? With a mystical compass in hand, the hunter tracked his prey through blood, using the bartender's crimson essence to lock onto the scent lingering on Jin Hyuk. The operative ghosted through the massive cityscape, without needing a ride. He began the hunt, leaping across moonlit rooftops with lethal predatory grace, along the signal's path. After pinning the blood's location, he finally descended before a silent apartment complex. Staring at the humble home, an eerie sensation crawled up his spine. For a flickering moment, the building seemed to glitch like a mirage, but he quickly dismissed it as a tired imagination. He also recognized it as the Leviathan Slayer's home, hinting that these two incidents were dangerously connected. But that didn't matter to the masked assassin. He had a contract to fulfill, and he never missed. Suddenly, he pulled a thick, wicked needle from thin air, radiating pure malice. His plan: capture and interrogate. Inside, Jin Hyuk approached the door and called out, demanding to know who was lurking. The intruder played cool, claiming a late delivery was held up by an accident. Jin Hyuk wasn't falling for it. There was zero chance for a courier to show up this late. Plus, with the perception blocking spell guarding the house, finding the place should be impossible. Anyone who could bypass that barrier just to play delivery boy definitely had a death wish. Steeling himself, Jin Hyuk swung the door open. His senses dialed to 11. The assassin lunged immediately, trying to breach the threshold, with that cursed needle aimed for the kill. Anticipating the strike, Jin Yuk didn't even flinch, snatching the attacker's wrist mid-air. He smirked, asking if poison needles were the new complimentary gift. The hunter had become the hunted. Expecting a helpless victim, the masked man's brain completely short-circuited. Suddenly, Lucia's voice cut through. "Step back," she yelled, releasing a devastating arrow from her bow. The shot was a literal blur. At this range, dodging was a physical impossibility, and the projectile tore straight through him. The sheer kinetic impact blasted the assassin backward, catapulting him out of the window. He hit the concrete, hard blood pooling as the shaft stayed buried, deep in his vitals. Lucia knocked another shot, ready to deliver a permanent end to the villain, but Jin Yuk signaled her to stop. This was his mess to clean up, especially since this guy clearly had beef from the bar. Lucia warned him that this creep was no average thug, since he survived a direct hit. Gritting his teeth, the assassin tried to pull the arrow out, trembling, terrified of the monster who nearly ended him. With a wet squelch, he finally ripped the shaft free, painting the pavement red. Every survival instinct in his body was screaming at him to retreat, for now. By the time Jin Yuk gave chase, the shadow was already leaping across the nearby rooftops, fleeing like a wounded animal. Lucia asked if they should follow, but Jin Yuk just shrugged. Why bother? The rat would eventually crawl back, and they could settle the score then. What really caught his eye was the assassin's karma value. A massive 900 hung over his head. This was a cold-blooded killer, but for someone like Jin Yuk, finding a high-tier villain was like hitting the jackpot. He was already brainstorming how to turn this psycho into his personal puppet. The next morning, a sleek guild vehicle whisked Jin Yuk and Lucia deep into the mountains toward a remote investigation site. They were there on guild leader Sang Ho's orders, but it was an open secret that most Titan Guild members still absolutely hated Jin Yuk's guts. Looking at the elites gathered, Jin Yuk noted that at least half were A-rank monsters. This was a top-tier squad. Leading the pack was a familiar face, the same hothead who'd tried to pick a fight earlier. Executive Han Young-sik was calling the shots. Instantly, Jin Yuk's annoyance radar started pinging. This mission was going south fast. Young-sik stepped forward, acting all professional, which actually shocked Jin Yuk. The man even referenced their shared history during that chaotic aerial dogfight. Jin Yuk couldn't help but notice the sudden personality flip. The guy was acting almost nice. Clearing his throat, Young-sik dropped a forced apology for his earlier trash behavior. He played the guild loyalty card, acting like he was just too hyped and felt bad. Reminiscing about their first encounter, he prayed it wouldn't mess up the mission today. Then he eyed the girl with Jin Yuk. "She's a pro," Jin Yuk said, introducing Lucia. "She wouldn't be dead weight." The suit was annoyed since she wasn't on the roster. But before he could complain, the scouting squad finally made their way back. He stepped away for the report. Even with the apology, he clearly still felt superior. To him, they were just C-rank scrubs. Not that their actual power level even mattered. The guy had a secret plan. Lucia instantly smelled the snake-like vibes coming off him. "Are we really letting this clown take the lead?" she whispered to Jin Yuk. Jin Yuk told her to chill. Plus, he noticed a tail following them from the start. Both of them had sniffed out that amateur stalker a long time ago. He left the tail alone. Maybe he'd be a useful pawn once the raid started. He handed Lucia a glowing crystal, a high-tech magic comms device for keeping in touch. It worked within 10 kilometers. They'd definitely need it, so she had to keep it handy. Young-sik came back with intel. It was official, the Tyrant Guild was knee-deep in this. They were into human trafficking. Now the executive had a special job for Jin Yuk. The scouts found a massive energy shield locked tight around the entire base. Only one person could ghost through that barrier. Young-sik pointed straight at Jin Yuk. "You're the man for the job," he lied. Jin Yuk saw right through the setup. It was a suicide run. Yet the snake kept acting like a fair team leader. "Surely, the Leviathan Slayer can handle a little stealth," he mocked with a smirk. He claimed Jin Yuk was better off solo than dragging the Titan members along. He barely knew Young-sik, but the guy was clearly dumping all the work on him. He was dumping every risk on Jin Yuk, thinking he was playing the young man. But this was exactly what Jin Yuk wanted. He headed out with a few Titan hunters. They hit the breach point. The plan, simple as it gets. The mages would crack the shield, and Jin Yuk had to dive through the gap. They reached the east gate. The magic crew could only hold the crack for seconds. It was a blink-and-you-miss-it window. Jin Yuk had to go full throttle immediately. They started tearing the hole. Jin Yuk didn't care about being the sacrificial lamb. Being a pawn didn't matter. He just wanted to see the tyrant's dirty secrets. Something was hidden in these peaks. Once the gap opened, he vanished inside. He scanned the area, but then Jin Yuk suddenly froze in his tracks. He summoned his trusty bat, but the scene inside was totally cursed and bizarre. It looked nothing like the outside. Total illusion magic. Now where was that entrance? He prowled for minutes without any heat. Where were all the guards hiding? Finally, he spotted one sentry standing guard over what looked like a hidden door. A guard meant loot or secrets. Something worth protecting was definitely behind that guy. This was his best shot. Jin-hyuk leaped, charging his bat with raw crushing power. He swung with everything he had. But wait, the guard just dissolved into black smoke. It was a fake, a mere illusion. He'd hoped to bag a prisoner for questioning. No interrogation today. Now he had to crack this entrance all by himself. To his shock, the secure base actually had simple automatic sliding doors. Like a local grocery store, the security was a joke. Not even a single camera. These monsters were operating under the arrogant assumption that their female captives had zero hope of escaping this nightmare. To stay 10 steps ahead, Jin-hyuk pulled a secret weapon from his inventory, a high-tech EMP generator. Forged from the remains of electric-type monsters, he slammed it down instantly, nuking every communication signal in the building. This calculated move was exactly why he'd entrusted the magic crystal to Lucia before tech became completely useless. As the EMP pulse surged through the walls, Jin-hyuk's mind raced, mapping out the next phase of his infiltration. With the compound plunged into digital darkness, the real hunt began, all while a mysterious masked observer tracked his every move. This shadow was finally connecting the dots, linking Jin-hyuk to both the bar massacre and the notorious Tyrant Guild. Like everyone in this twisted game, the masked man had hidden motives, and Jin-hyuk was the key to his ultimate success. The fallout from the EMP blast Jin-hyuk triggered was immediate and absolutely chaotic for the unsuspecting guards. One lazy sentry cursed as his mobile game suddenly went black, his phone losing power in the blink of an eye. He blamed the crappy rural reception, but by the time his gut screamed danger, it was already far too late. A crimson bat blurred through the air, smashing into his skull with bone-shattering force before he could even blink. Jin-hyuk hadn't even swung, he'd launched the weapon like a spear, perfectly neutralizing the threat in one clean, brutal move. Using auto-recovery, the weapon snapped back to his hand. Finally, he had found a real target of flesh and blood. Crimson spray painted the walls as the guard's lifeless shell collapsed onto the cold concrete with a sickening thud. The victim wasn't even a hunter yet. A staggering 800 karma points loomed over his head like a death sentence. This facility was a literal breeding ground for the most subhuman, vile, and absolute trash imaginable. Any lingering hesitation vanished. Jin-hyuk was now ready to erase every single person involved in this operation from existence. Beyond the heavy steel gates lay a grim, endless corridor lined with row after row of cold iron prison doors. This was the heart of the horror, where they stashed the kidnapped women in conditions that were beyond abysmal. Chained like livestock, these poor souls were being saved as mere ingredients for some twisted and cursed elixir. Who goes there? A sudden masculine voice broke the silence, coming from a cell that didn't fit the grim pattern. Instead of a victim, this cage held a man sporting the official colors and uniform of the Tyrant Guild. The prisoner begged Jin-hyuk to run while he still could, whispering that everyone in this hellhole had completely lost their sanity. Outside the walls, the shady team leader checked his watch, calculating exactly how long Jin-hyuk had been ghosting them inside. Minutes ticked by in eerie silence, making the leader wonder if the infiltration had gone south or if Jin-hyuk had failed. Thinking it was time to move, Young-sik ordered his elite squad to tighten the noose and surround the facility. On his signal, the Tyrant members surged forward, their black jackets blurring into the shadows of the compound. Lucia stood her ground, looking totally bored and indifferent, which left Young-sik scratching his head in pure confusion. While the executive joined the front lines, Lucia stayed back, her mind already 3 steps ahead of the entire game. Before the raid, Jin-hyuk had been dead set on handling the indoor carnage and the infiltration all by himself. Her job was simple: keep a sharp eye on those tyrant snakes outside, just in case Young-sik tried something cute. Jin-hyuk told her to stay chill, but sitting on the sidelines just wasn't in her fierce and restless nature. Back inside the dark halls, the caged man finally spoke up, identifying himself to Jin-hyuk as Dae-yoon. Jin-hyuk scoffed, wondering how a big-shot tyrant member ended up rotting in a miserable, pathetic hole like this. Dae-yoon confessed he'd tried to assassinate a high-ranker and was only alive because they needed his freakish rare expertise. The mind-bending illusions and the fake guards protecting the perimeter, those were all his personal twisted handiwork. Jin-hyuk was curious what would make a loyal guild member turn into a whistleblower and sabotage his own research. He couldn't stomach watching his comrades use innocent women as monster bait anymore. He'd finally reached his breaking point. He went for the boss's throat but got caught in the act, ending up locked away in this dungeon. To Jin-hyuk's surprise, this guy actually had a soul. His karma was a shockingly low 62. Sensing an ally, Jin-hyuk offered Dae-yoon a formal invitation to help him burn this evil place to the ground. Meanwhile, the lazy operative in charge of the security monitors was fast asleep in his plush, comfortable office chair. He jolted awake, realizing he'd passed out on the job again, a habit that was becoming far too frequent. Being a sleepyhead was normal for him, but instead of the usual boring security footage, he saw nothing but static. His eyes snapped open to a wall of dead black screens. Darkness swallowed the room as he scrambled to make sense of the sudden blackout. No answers came. Panic surged as he mashed buttons, desperately trying to reboot, but the system remained cold and unresponsive. Jin-hyuk's EMP had fried the power grid entirely. Every gadget from high-tech consoles to personal smartphones was now nothing more than expensive paperweights. The entire network was toast, and this idiot had snoozed through the whole disaster. Talk about a massive security fail. This operator was definitely getting fired. Just outside, Tyrant Guild members were casually chilling playing cards to kill time in the hallway. Their boring shift was suddenly interrupted when the frantic operator burst out screaming like his life depended on it. "Emergency," he howled. The Tyrant thugs jumped more pissed about their ruined card game than the actual threat lurking nearby. The news was brutal. The entire system was dead. But wait, it gets even worse for these losers. Every single prisoner had vanished from their cells. A ghost-like intruder was turning their high-security facility into a total circus. The squad leader barked orders, splitting his men. Team 1 hauled tail to the Elon production lab to protect their asset. Team 2 went on a manhunt for the intruder and the escapees. Meanwhile, that useless operator was left to fix the mess. He was forced to find any way to ping headquarters before things got even bloodier. His job was officially on the line. Freedom. Every cell door had swung open, and the captive women were now sprinting toward the nearest exit for their lives. With death at their heels, Dae-hyun took the lead. He knew these dark corridors better than anyone carving out a path to safety. They could almost taste the fresh air, but their luck ran out. The Tyrant Guild arrived, blocking their only way out. Seeing the escapees, the guards swarmed like hungry wolves. The lead hunter locked eyes with Dae-hyun, instantly recognizing the traitor among them. Dae-hyun ushered the women past, planting his feet firmly. He was staying behind to be the shield they needed to survive. He needed to buy every second possible. One cocky tyrant thug lunged forward, itching to put Dae-hyun in the ground for good. As the fist flew, Dae-hyun smirked. It was time for a little lesson in his true specialty: deception. An illusion. The guard's fist hit nothing but air, leaving him fuming at being clowned by such a simple trick. While Team 2 was busy chasing shadows, Team 1 was about to walk straight into a living nightmare. Their fate was looking much bleaker. These fools had brought tiny knives to a fight they couldn't possibly win. Who brings a knife to a bat fight? Jin-hyuk was already tearing through the guards stationed at the Elon production wing. His footwork was a blur, dancing around their clumsy swings, and leaving them swinging at nothing but air. He absolutely embarrassed these amateurs. One clean crack to the skull was all it took for each guard to hit the floor. Jin-hyuk didn't even break a sweat taking down the last guy. These guys were guarding this door like their lives depended on it. Whatever was behind this gate was clearly the main event. Jin-hyuk kicked the doors open and stepped into the lion's den. He scanned the room, finding a twisted forest of high-tech gear, dedicated to brewing their disgusting, inhumane drugs. This secret underground lab was massive. Rows of chilling human-sized pods lined the walls, each one a testament to their cruelty. Inside every tube was a missing woman trapped like a lab rat. Seeing this horror in person was a total gut punch. It was way more sickening than he'd pictured. And right in the center sat a terrifying beast held in reinforced glass. This was it, Elon. The monstrous source of every drop of blood spilled in this hellhole was right in front of him. Jin-hyuk's knuckles went white around his bat. The beast didn't flinch, sleeping soundly while the world outside burned. A savage grin touched his lips as lightning crackled along his bat. He wound up ready to hit a home run. He hoped to end this nightmare with one swing, but things are never that easy in a dungeon. Sensing the killing intent, Elon's eyes snapped open. The glass exploded into shards as razor-sharp tentacles lashed out with lethal speed. Jin-hyuk blurred across the room, barely avoiding the whipping limbs that were aiming straight for his heart and throat. He had to abort his big move just to stay alive. Those tentacles moved with a terrifying, erratic precision that chilled his blood. One solid hit from those massive appendages would turn him into paste. The raw power and speed were off the charts. He was stuck on the defensive, playing a deadly game of tag while praying for even a split-second opening. "Focus," he hissed, steadying his breathing. Panic was a death sentence against a grotesque nightmare like Elon. The monster was a mass of writhing fury. It finally shattered the remaining glass, fully emerging from its artificial womb. Shards of glass rained down like lethal shrapnel. For the first time, it looked like Jin-hyuk might actually be in over his head. He triggered his hard-skinned skill, bracing for impact. Dodging a lethal swipe, he lunged forward, refusing to back down from the fight. He was going for the kill, but a crushing blow nearly broke his guard. This thing wasn't just strong, it was a literal god of destruction. Dust settled as Jin-hyuk braced himself for the next exchange. This monster wasn't going down without a fight. He needed more power. Locking in, Jin-hyuk channeled every ounce of focus into one devastating final strike. Determined to end the man-eater's reign of terror, he narrowly secures the kill as the beast finally collapses. Among the remains, he discovers Alrauna's magic stone. Strangely, the system fails to appraise the mysterious glowing artifact. It looked standard enough, but something felt off. He'd need the dwarf's expertise to uncover its hidden secrets later. Now Jin-hyuk needs to see how the battle outside is progressing. Tapping his communication crystal, he checks in with Lucia to get a live sitrep on the situation. He asks if the captives escaped. Lucia confirms that a mysterious man is currently leading the girls down. They've reached the base, but a squad of identical pursuers is hot on their heels, closing the distance fast. Jin-hyuk explains their guide is a Tyrant Guild defector. Despite his past, the man is now playing for keeps. They've formed a temporary alliance, so he's officially on their side now. Jin-hyuk tells her not to worry. With that settled, Lucia pivots to the real question, the status of the high-rank monster they were hunting. When asked about Alraune, Jin-hyuk scoffs, confirming the beast has been thoroughly wiped from existence. He's secured the stone too, but Jin-hyuk's mind is already on the enemy forces currently hunting their allies. Lucia says the rival groups have been clashing for quite a while. When the white-clad squad arrived, the Titans charged in instantly. But the vibe of the fight shifted quickly. Something's wrong. Lucia watches as the white-clothed fighters swallow something mysterious mid-battle, triggering a terrifying change. Their bodies warp instantly. Now the Titans who were winning are suddenly getting absolutely wrecked by these monsters. Jin-hyuk realizes it's Alraune's drug. If those enhancers are in play, this situation just became a total nightmare. He can't let the Titan Guild fall here. Their defeat would trigger a massive power vacuum he can't ignore. He finds the Titans annoying, but crushing the Tyrant Guild's schemes is way more important right now. He orders Lucia to jump into the fray before the battlefield turns into a complete bloodbath. Lucia smirks, promising to delete those white-clad freaks. She tells Jin-hyuk to just sit back and watch. Her price, a mountain of gourmet sweets. Deal. Meanwhile, Jin-hyuk feels a chill in the air. He knows Lucia has things handled. The endgame is near, but he has his own pest to deal with. "Come out, Mr. Delivery Man," he calls. A shadowed figure emerges, shocked his stealth was so easily pierced. Jin-hyuk stares him down, wondering if this assassin is here for his life, or the boss's loot. The masked man admits his mission has changed. He's no longer just after the magic stone, he's after blood. Jin-hyuk gives him a cold warning. "You're really going to regret choosing to cross me today." As they clash, the man is horrified. Jin-hyuk's reflexes are insane, way beyond what any C rank should possess. He recalls Jin-hyuk swatting away poison darts like flies. Was that feat of skill really just dumb luck? He tries to shake off the fear, convincing himself a low ranker couldn't possibly be this dangerous. He's just a C rank, he growls, popping his ultimate ability to end this fight once and for all. But as his blade connects, he hits a wall. Something is very wrong with this kid's defense. Panic sets in. The man realizes Jin-hyuk has hidden armor and tries to retreat instantly. Too slow, an invisible pressure pins him down. Jin-hyuk isn't letting this rat scurry back to his hole. The man barely survives the next strike. Realization hits him like a truck. Jin-hyuk is a literal monster in disguise. His power level is off the charts. Seething with rage, the assassin refuses to accept his humiliating defeat. He screams threats of vengeance, but Jin-hyuk just laughs. "There won't be a next time for this loser. This dungeon is your tomb," Jin-hyuk declares. With the trash cleared, he finally checks on the wounded survivors. Saving lives is now the main quest. Meanwhile, a full report on this mess is heading up the chain. The news of the Tyrant Guild's secret drug lab sends shockwaves everywhere. Without that mysterious girl's help, they're dead. Survival was impossible without her. Her projectiles hit with terrifying godlike power. She moved with S-rank lethality, yet no record exists of a female hunter with that kind of insane firepower. As the dust settles, the wounded are evacuated, and every shred of evidence is locked down for investigation. Tyrant forces are finally suppressed. Now it's just about tying up the loose ends. But hold up, a messenger bursts in, lungs burning, carrying news that stops them cold. The Tyrant Guild's big boss and his top-tier elites are officially on the move. One name sends chills down their spines: S-rank hunter Cho Wan-chul. Staying means certain death. The executive in glasses grits his teeth. Victory was right there, but now they're retreating. Static hits the comms. A Tyrant strike force is already blitzing toward their location. The vanguard is here. The warning wasn't a joke, the enemy is breathing down their necks. Missions cancelled, the order is clear: drop everything and get the hell out of there. They need to vanish fast. But one man steps back, realizing a total ghosting looks suspicious. Staying behind is the play. He'll craft the perfect alibi and point the finger elsewhere. It's time to rewrite history. A fake report will frame a third party for this chaos. The main mission: avoid a head-on collision between the Titan and Tyrant guilds at all costs. After a tense talk, the Titan members lock in their target, Hunter Kang Jin-hyuk. He's still inside the facility, making him the ultimate fall guy to mask their tracks. Can they really trust this traitor? Selling a lie to the Tyrant Guild is incredibly dangerous. But deception is just a tool. What they're really buying is time to prep for war. The mask finally slips. Now, they have the perfect justification for war. This is the ultimate window to strike and wipe them out completely. Lucia wonders if this bloodied wreck is the man Jin-hyuk mentioned. Move fast, Jin-hyuk is waiting, and everything is going perfectly. At the rendezvous, Jin-hyuk drops the latest intel on his crew. Target neutralized. He confirms Alruni's soul has officially left his body. But there's a catch. They must stage this scene flawlessly. It must look like Al-Rooney did the deed. The trap clicks shut. He slides over a file. As they read, their faces go pale. These are the victims of those brutal serial killings. This is terrifying. The Great Guild Killer only hunts titans. Let's pin it on him. Total invisibility. No one will doubt it. Jin Hyuk reveals the play. He asks Daehyun to pull the strings. Daehyun grins hooked. Lucia hesitates, worried this wild gamble might lead to total disaster. Jin Hyuk's got this. No time to linger, they need to vanish now. The Tyrant Guild's heavy hitters are inbound. Or so it seems. The report was a half-truth. Reinforcements are definitely rolling in. They're 2 hours away. That approaching squad. Purely a phantom illusion. Daehyun hails Jin Hyuk as a savior for those spared lives. No thanks needed. The real war is just warming up. The Tyrant Guild just took a massive L. Now vultures are circling. Jin Hyuk watches and waits. Their empire is finally turning to ash. Their secrets are sickening. Time to leak it before war erupts. Send the files anonymously. Association, police, and the press hit everyone. Some worry this just hands a win to rival guilds. But saving lives beats a petty tactical advantage any day. The bomb drops. A top guild was feeding humans to monsters. Public outrage explodes. The government demands a full-scale purge. Major guilds swear to help expose every dirty secret. Predictably, the Tyrant Guild goes into total lockdown mode. Meanwhile, Han Young-seo is losing it as the scandal goes viral. Right then, the Titan leader Seo Sang-ho calls to blast him. He's fuming over the leak. All their hard work wasted. Now, the Titan Guild is being hailed as righteous heroes. Young Seo fires back. Secrecy would have let the tyrant strike first. An S-class recruit would have guaranteed a total tyrant wipeout. Sang-ho isn't buying it. Even with power, victory was never guaranteed. The war debate rages on. Defeating the master is a gamble. Young Seo wants the tyrant's crown regardless of the body count. Sang-ho snaps back. Innocents will die. It's too reckless. What's your real goal? A guild protects, it doesn't just devour. He claims it's for the best, but his leader ignores him. He realizes the Titan Guild is a sinking ship under Sang-ho. The executive makes the call, offering a secret seat of power. This shadow contact will flip the board. The hunt continues. After toppling the Titan Guild master, the spotlight swerves back to Jinuk. He's prepping for a shady rendezvous in the most unlikely of places. Young Dae-hyun shows up right on time, radiating a brand new swaggering confidence. Their scheme is gliding smoothly thanks to those carefully crafted lies chilling out the Tyrant Guild. But don't get comfortable. The tyrants are already mobilizing a lethal hunt for Kang Jin Hyuk. How can a crumbling guild afford this? Still, the elites are starting to smell a rat. They're side-eyeing the facts. Word of that pursuer's corpse leaked at a suspiciously breakneck speed. Suspicions flare that the real killer is still out there. No proof yet, but doubts are festering. Jinuk's cover holds for now, but in this game, one slip-up means game over. He needs to ghost everyone until the Tyrant Guild finally bites the dust for good. Post-chat, Young Dae-hyun drops the dossiers on the heavy hitters leading the investigation. He offers the intel to Jin Hyuk, though it's honestly just a formality at this point. Jinuk already clocked them as fakes. He's been playing 3 steps ahead since the very start. Who's actually hunting him? Turns out it's a high-tier archer and a deadly mage duo. These masters of stealth could literally be anyone. They might even wear a friend's face to strike. After fact-checking, one last bombshell drops a little piece of tech called the Monster Counter. Jin Hyuk recognizes the name from the Titan Guild, but this new model looks way more dangerous. It's a souped-up version specifically re-engineered after that absolute nightmare during the Al-Roun incident. The association is tightening the leash with a brand new surveillance system for every single guild hunter. Wearing one is mandatory. Total surveillance. The association will see every breath they take. Dungeon crawling just got 10 times harder. Jin Hyuk needs to pop that strength elixir immediately. Once the system goes live, any sudden power spike will trigger a massive red flag. If he's caught leveling up, the Tyrant Guild will be all over him like a rash. He's got to move fast. This surveillance was a total curveball, but there's no turning back now. Gaining even an ounce more power is the top priority. Zero time to waste. He heads straight for the dungeon, where a beyond furious dwarf is waiting to rip into him. Jinuk vanished while hunting for ore, only to spawn back in like nothing ever happened. He didn't bring ore, but something else entirely. Jinuk starts scrambling for a half-decent apology. Weeks of radio silence followed by a casual "I'm back" has the dwarf absolutely livid. He tries to explain his busy schedule, but the dwarf isn't buying any of his excuses. Apology rejected. Besides, the thing Jinuk is carrying is definitely not your average crafting material. It's a cursed relic dripping with soul-deep grudges, basically a dwarf's worst nightmare. They won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Now, Lucia's sudden urgent task finally makes sense. She bailed because of this thing. Jinuk traded valuable ore for a piece of cursed junk. The dwarf demands he trash it. Jinuk panics, swearing he had no clue what he was holding. Excuses don't fix mistakes, but tossing a relic like this out feels like a massive waste. There has to be a better way to use this. Only one option remains on the table. Lucia's cryptic warning finally clicks. She knew the dwarf couldn't handle the power of this item. Now it all makes sense. Deep beneath the cliff, a secret location is waiting for him. Chinook recalls the Temple of the Dragon. He's already got the key to its ancient doors. Unlock the temple, purge the curse, and he'll forge a weapon of truly god-tier proportions. This blade would dwarf his current gear, but will that key actually work? That's the gamble. The key is legit, but it comes with a warning that would chill anyone to the bone. This isn't just another temple. It's a death trap far more lethal than any dungeon yet. Charging in now is a suicide mission. For now, Chinook chooses to retreat and gear up. No matter how far they'd come, survival was the only priority. Jin Hyuk watched Lucia tear through the distance. Seeing her incredible speed, he racked his brain preparing for the looming nightmare ahead. Potions and scrolls were standard, but deep down he knew they wouldn't be enough for this. Before asking for help, he realized their supplies were gone. Lucia had devoured a whole month's worth of food. His shock was cut short by a frantic call. Secretary Lee Hana from the Titan Guild was begging for backup. Her voice cracked, mentioning Guildmaster Sang-ho. Something had gone horribly wrong, and Jin Hyuk knew it. Jin Hyuk raced to the scene, Lee Hana's desperation ringing in his ears. He found Sang-ho in total collapse. Drenched in blood and fading fast, Hana tried to soothe him. Jin Hyuk knew every second was a death sentence. He jumped into action, drenching the open wounds in high-grade potions to stall the inevitable. The bleeding slowed, but the mystery remained. He looked at the traumatized secretary and her dying boss. What kind of monster did this Sang-ho gasped for air, struggling to get the truth out? It was a betrayal. An ambush by his own men at a guild event he thought was safe. He expected a normal celebration, but the atmosphere was heavy with murderous intent. Only Han Young-sok's snakes were there. By then, the poison in his drink had already taken hold. His strength drained instantly, but he unleashed everything he had left just to break free. He barely made it out before collapsing. Jin Hyuk absorbed every chilling detail of the attack. Even poisoned Sang-ho shouldn't have been taken down by mere fodder. There was a missing piece. Something else was at play. Suddenly, Sang-ho convulsed as the agony returned with a vengeance. The healed flesh tore back open. Whatever poison they used was designed to bypass standard recovery magic. Time was up. Jin Hyuk demanded to know the poison's source. Did they have any antidote? Hana's eyes filled with tears. Ordinary hunter cures were completely useless against this lethal toxin. Jin Hyuk suggested a specialized hospital, but Sang-ho knew that would be a total death trap. They'd be sitting ducks for the guild assassins. Jin Hyuk pivoted, calculating their next move. He barked at Hana to get the car ready. She was stunned, but he ordered an immediate extraction. They were headed to his place. She couldn't believe it. Did he actually have a secret cure? No antidote, he admitted, but he had a wild card that might just save Sang-ho's life. Hana floored it, tearing through the streets, while Jin Hyuk kept the dying guildmaster from slipping away. They were close. Jin Hyuk urged Sang-ho to hold on, begging him not to give up now. Suddenly, Hana's face went pale. A shadow was looming in the rearview mirror. Jin Hyuk looked back. It was the same car that had been lurking outside the house earlier. It was a tail. He couldn't lead these killers to his front door. He had to change plans. He forced Hana onto a different route, giving her precise coordinates for an emergency detour. At the drop-off point, Jin Hyuk prepped for battle. He told Hana to take Sang-ho to the apartment. He'd handle the pursuer. His ally was already waiting to secure them once they arrived. Kang Jun-tae expected a broken guildmaster, but found a defiant stranger blocking his path instead. He sneered, questioning if Jin Hyuk really thought he could stop an S-rank hunter single-handedly. Jin Hyuk didn't flinch, scanning the area to see if this monster brought any backup. But wait, Hana wasn't driving away. Why the hell was she still standing there? She screamed for him to run, her voice trembling as she revealed the horrific reality. The man before him was Kang Jun-tae, a legendary S-rank hunter. Jin Hyuk froze in shock. His senses screamed in warning. The air turned heavy as Jun-tae unleashed his monstrous aura. This was no ordinary fighter. The sheer pressure nearly crushed Jin Hyuk's spirit. Hana cried out in terror. He could barely breathe, let alone fight. He yelled at her to vanish before it was too late. He promised to meet her later, forcing her to flee as the danger reached a breaking point. She finally peeled away. However, Kang Jun-tae, refusing to let his prey vanish, he lunges forward to seal the exit. Escape isn't an option. Jin Hyuk blocks his path again, sparking fury in the S-class hunter. Jun-tae snarls, demanding why this pest keeps ruining his plans. Jin Hyuk fights desperately to buy every second. Meanwhile, Hyuna reaches safety, praying Jinook survives this nightmare. Jinook knows he is dancing on a razor's edge. Fuming Kang Jun-tae demands why a nobody is interfering, warning him to vanish or face a brutal death. He is too busy for these games. But Jin Hyuk does not flinch or retreat. Did Jun-tae really think he would just run away shaking before another word is spoken? Jun-tae blurs into motion. His strikes are blindingly fast and packed with lethal power. Each blow forces Jinook into a frantic dodge. One mistake means instant death. Juntai mocks his struggle, curious to see when he will break. The onslaught intensifies, and Jinook feels the cold breath of the Reaper. Thinking fast, Jinook pulls mithril chainmail from his inventory. The gear's divine protection ignites instantly, slashing incoming damage by 50%. When the next impact lands, Jinook realizes he nearly met his end. Without that armor, he would be a corpse right now. Juntai eyes him curiously impressed. That Seo Sang-ho had such a beast hiding in his ranks. Suddenly, the truth clicks. Could this be the C-rank hunter who took down that legendary new monster? Juntai remembers the rumors from Han Yong-sok about a mysterious warrior linked to the guildmaster. Now Jin Yuk realizes his cover is blown. Even if he survives today, there is no place left to hide. His home is no longer a safe haven. But first he has to survive this monster. Escaping a powerhouse like Juntai seems impossible. Suddenly Juntai drops a shocker. Join him and betray Seo Sang-ho. The Titan Guild needs talent exactly like his. Jin Yuk rejects the offer without hesitation. The scene shifts to Lucia, pouring every drop of mana into the dying guild master. She has hit her limit. She cannot hold on. Trembling, she pulls back, wondering if they should search for help outside this chaos. The poison inside Seo Sang-ho is still a death sentence. Lucia's temporary fixes only offer brief rest, but the cure is still missing. His agony fades slightly, though time is rapidly running out. Li He's heart sinks frantically, asking if there is any other way to save him. Lucia pauses, a sudden memory of a man who might hold the answer surfacing. He is their only hope now. But there is a catch. Reaching the dungeon with the antidote requires Jinook's power. A path exists, but it is a suicide mission. Back at the front lines, Jinook's defense is crumbling under the pressure. His enemy is relentless, a hurricane of steel that leaves no room to breathe. Every heavy impact drains his spirit, and his mana is hitting rock bottom. He is at his breaking point and needs a potion, but there is not a single opening to drink. The pressure is suffocating. Now he must bet everything on one final desperate strike. Teeth clenched, he refuses to yield. If he goes down, he is going down swinging. Gathering his remaining strength, he prepares for a last-ditch assault. But no matter how hard he swings, he cannot land a single hit. Jin Yuk's frustration boils over as Juntai yawns, calling this whole fight a total snooze fest. Suddenly, a killing blow streaks toward Jin Yuk. He tries to dodge, but his exhausted muscles refuse to move. The impact is devastating. Panic surges as his brain screams at his body to react. He is paralyzed with fear. At the ultimate second, raw instinct takes over, letting him barely roll away from a fatal wound. Kang Juntae smirks, actually impressed that the kid survived. He offers the deal one last time. Jin Yuk spits out a refusal, and Juntai decides it is time to end this. As the finishing move descends, Jin Yuk sees his life flash by. Suddenly, a whistle pierces the air. A stray arrow disrupts the execution. Lucia has arrived, racing through the battlefield. Imprinting the path in her mind, she sprinted down the unfamiliar route without a single moment of second-guessing. Each frantic step closed the gap, her heart screaming for Jin Hyuk to cling to life just a little longer. He had to survive. Meanwhile, the air crackled with tension as Kang Juntae prepared his final lethal strike. But before the killing blow could land, a whistling arrow shredded the wind, forcing the villain to leap back. He stared at the projectile in shock, sensing its monstrous pressure. Nearby, a battered Jin Hyuk clung to consciousness. Recognizing that arrow, Jin Hyuk realized Lucia had arrived, her hidden strength exploding onto the battlefield to save him. The arrogant S-class hunter thought she was fodder, but his smug grin vanished as he felt her true power. When she effortlessly parried his strike, Juntae's mind spiraled. How could this girl possibly match his legendary strength? Lucia remained cold and focused. There was no room for error. She needed to end this threat immediately. With a terrifying display of force, she shattered the enemy's spear bare-handed, leaving him paralyzed in sheer disbelief. He couldn't wrap his head around being overpowered so easily. A chilling thought suddenly crossed his mind. Could she be a secret S-class from overseas? There was no way a monster like her existed here unnoticed. Even a recovering Jin Hyuk was floored by the sheer dominance Lucia was displaying against their formidable foe. Seeing Jin Hyuk was still in the game, Lucia gave him the call. Should she finish this, or bounce? Jin Hyuk shook his head, advising her not to get any more blood on her hands for his sake. Juntae's pride was wounded, but his survival instincts were screaming. He knew the tide had turned against him. Realizing a continued clash was suicide, the villain swallowed his rage and agreed to a temporary ceasefire. He masked his retreat with a sneer, and though Lucia mocked him, he stood his ground with cold fury. "I'll remember this," he hissed, warning them that their next encounter would end with them in the ground. Then he vanished. As the dust settled, the suffocating pressure of the battle finally began to fade away. Lucia rushed to Jin Hyuk's side, using her skills to ensure his condition wasn't as fatal as it looked. To his amazement, his wounds vanished completely. He thanked her, stunned by her lethal combat and god-tier healing. Lucia beamed with pride, teasing him for finally realizing that she was the one truly carrying the team. Jin Hyuk joked that she was basically a cheat code character, a compliment that earned a playful smirk from her. But the mood shifted when he asked about Seo Sang-ho. Lucia revealed the leader was resting back home. Without specialized medical gear, Sang-ho was still hanging by a thread, his life force slowly draining away. Their only hope lay with the dwarf's antidote. They couldn't afford to waste a single second on the road. As they prepped to move, Lucia warned Jin Hyuk to stay sharp. His body was still far from its peak. One wrong move and his wounds would reopen. Plus, with his secret identity blown, danger was now everywhere. Saving Seo Sang-ho was the priority, even if it meant Jin Hyuk had to walk straight into danger. At their hideout, the dwarf was fuming. He barked about the missing ore needed for the purification ritual. Instead of materials, Jin Hyuk had brought a dying man, throwing the dwarf's entire schedule into absolute chaos. Jin Hyuk apologized for the mess, vowing to make it right once Sang-ho was out of the woods. But the situation turned grim. Sang-ho wasn't just sick, he was rotting from legendary basilisk venom. A cure was the only way out, but the rare ingredients were nowhere to be found in the workshop. When Jin Hyuk begged for help, the dwarf snapped that he wasn't some magical vending machine for rare items. Nearby, Sang-ho woke up, his eyes darting around the strange room as he tried to process his surroundings. Jin Hyuk caught his gaze but kept it brief, telling him to just treat this place as a skill. Trusting Sang-ho with this secret hideout was a gamble, but the leader had earned that loyalty long ago. The dwarf handed over a temporary fix, explaining it would only slow the poison's crawl through his veins. They had 12 hours at most. If the real antidote wasn't found by then, Sang-ho would be gone. Jin Hyuk searched for alternatives, but the dwarf's silence was a heavy reminder of their desperate situation. A high-end hunter hospital might have the cure, but going there was like ringing a dinner bell for assassins. Their enemies would track them the second they stepped through the doors, making a hospital visit a death sentence. Just then, a memory clicked in Jin Hyuk's mind. It was time to return to the world of Earth. Jin Hyuk and Lucia huddled, whispering about clandestine shadows where a cure might be lurking. Certainty was zero, and though they'd bought breathing room, a real solution remained ghost-like. Then Jin Hyuk dropped a bombshell, one final desperate gambit if this play went south. It was their last stand. Jin Hyuk grabbed his phone, dialing a number that changed everything. The receiver was stunned by the midnight ring, but Jin Hyuk bypassed all pleasantries. "Do you have the basilisk antidote?" he demanded. The contact knew an illicit doc who might. When pressed, why Jin Hyuk's reply was icy. "It's urgent." The underground deal was struck. They'd smuggle the doctor in. For a VIP like Jin Hyuk, they'd handle it with total stealth. Jin Hyuk gave the word the cure was coming. Hyuna finally collapsed in tears of pure relief. The underground medic arrived like a shadow, successfully purging the lethal toxin from Sang-ho's veins. The verdict: 14 days of agonizing recovery before the man could move a single muscle. Bed rest was mandatory. But Jin Hyuk knew that 2-week window was a massive tactical nightmare. They were sitting ducks against the Titan Guild's hunt, even with Lucia's fire backup. The brutal clash with Juntae had left scars exposing the gaping holes in Jin Hyuk's power. He'd played himself underestimating an S-rank's raw might, while growing arrogant with his own. Lucia saw his heavy shoulders. Jin Hyuk didn't flinch. He confessed just how powerless he felt. He was at rock bottom. But Lucia looked him in the eye, promising god-tier growth. She proposed a high-stakes suicide mission. Jin Hyuk didn't blink. He'd do anything to level up. By dawn, Jin Hyuk was geared up and ready to raid the legendary Dragon's Temple. He packed 50 explosion scrolls and 600 potions. Overkill. No, this was survival. Armor checked, blade sharpened, and in his pocket a return stone, his only lifeline. Before vanishing, he entrusted his allies to Lucia. "Watch over them while I'm gone." Lucia's warning was chilling. The Dragon's Temple was a meat grinder. "Don't get greedy," she hissed. "Push too hard, and you're dead." Jin Hyuk nodded, promising to use the stone if hell erupted. Secretary Lee stepped forward, her voice trembling as she blamed herself for his dangerous gamble. Jin Hyuk cut her off. "Don't apologize," he said coldly. "This isn't just you. I want revenge." He turned to Lucia. "You're the only one I trust now. Just wait for my return." He was coming back as a monster. Soon the gates of the Dragon's Temple loomed. Her voice echoed, "Grab the strength and get out. Do not let greed swallow you." But playing it safe, not his style. He wasn't leaving until he could crush an S-rank. The trek felt eternal as he marched deep into the belly of the ancient structure. Doubt started to creep in, until the chamber ignited, revealing rows of eerie, haunted armor. They looked like museum pieces, but the air turned heavy. These weren't statues, they were killers, fear non-existent. This was exactly the kind of trial by fire Jin Hyuk was craving. The metal giants lunged, looking terrifying, but Jin Hyuk realized their power was mostly bark. He spotted the glow their cores. One strike there, and it's game over for these husks. Jin Hyuk didn't even break a sweat. He had the ultimate counter for these mechanical monstrosities. He unleashed a storm of lightning, frying their cores. How's that taste for a metal diet? Back at the Titan Guild, Han Young-suk was absolutely losing it. His rage was a volcano. He was livid. Juntae had failed to bag one injured target, turning a simple job into disaster. It should have been easy, he roared, demanding a status update on his top executives. The report was grim. The executives were under house arrest, monitored like caged animals. The Titan Guild had gone dark. No internet, no phones. They were completely cut off. Young-suk's eyes went cold. Keep them under a microscope, he hissed. No one escapes. He had to block every exit for Seo Sang-ho, but the conversation was suddenly interrupted. Boom! The door explodes off its hinges as Kang Juntae storms in his face, a mask of pure fury. He barks out a demand for answers regarding those hidden traps. Han Young-suk is baffled by this aggression, since he had already briefed Juntae on that pathetic low-level hunter. But Juntae just closes the distance, seething. It turns out he is not talking about the guy. It is the female archer Young-suk's assistant intervenes immediately, warning Juntae to back off from the boss. Big mistake. Juntae does not blink before launching a savage strike. One brutal punch sends the lackey flying into the wall. Without a second look, Juntae glares at the executive. Suddenly it clicks. Young-suk realizes Juntae is obsessed with the woman trailing alongside Kang Jin-hyuk. He cautiously asks if Juntae actually tasted defeat. That question stings like a slap, but Juntae instantly snaps back, calling it total nonsense. He swears if his spear had not snapped, he would have won. From that desperate excuse, Han Young-suk realizes this woman is a legit beast if she gave someone as strong as Juntae trouble. This was not just salt. She had straight up humbled him an L that Juntae never saw coming in his life. Scrambling for a response, Young-suk promises to handle her. He swears they will set a trap for both her and Jin-hyuk. Then comes the reminder, the main mission is still Sang-ho. That man needs to be deleted from the server fast. Speed is key to finally snatching the Titan Guild's throne. They already know Sang-ho was hit with deadly poison. He is basically a dead man walking. Even if he pulls through, he will be a shell of his legendary self. All that is left is to track him down and finish it. The only wildcards are Kang Jin-hyuk and Lucia, but the guild is ready to wipe them out. This time Han Young-suk looks confident. He is certain Juntae can seal the deal once those two annoying obstacles are finally out of the picture. With no one left to stop them, the plan will be complete. The Titan Guild's crown will belong to Juntae. Meanwhile, deep inside the Dragon Temple, Kang Jin-hyuk has just finished mopping the floor with those armored creeps. After clearing the room, he steps into the second chamber. In the shadows, a strange figure sits on a throne. Jin-hyuk freezes. Something is seriously wrong here. The figure's karma level is showing a flat 0. The old man perched on the throne looks hyped. It has been ages since a fresh soul entered his domain. Jin-hyuk keeps it respectful but cautious. He knows he is standing in front of someone absolutely legendary. The old man's interest peaks. He asks if Jin-hyuk is judging him based on that eerie 0 karma reading. Wait, how does he know about the karma vision? Jin-hyuk is shook. But the old man just dodges the question. He flips the script asking why Jin-hyuk is here. He correctly guesses it is because of that cursed artifact. Jin-hyuk is stunned. This guy talks like he has already read the script of Jin-hyuk's entire life. As the old man descends to meet him eye to eye, Jin-hyuk reveals the stone. He needs it purified now. The old man recognizes it instantly. This thing was fed on human souls, dripping with dark, vengeful energy. It is soaked in pure resentment. But then the old man gives a small, confident smirk. This is light work. Cleaning this up is easy for him. With a casual flick of his wrist, ancient magic begins to swirl. Light erupts from the stone. In seconds, the corruption vanishes, and the gem's color shifts into something pure. The terrifying aura is just gone. Jin-hyuk is legitimately floored. He offers a genuine word of thanks, but the old man stops him. Save the thanks for when the real mission is done. Jin-hyuk is confused. Their eyes meet, and suddenly the world twists. Jin-hyuk feels like he has been ripped across space and time. The old man's voice echoes, the trial has already started. He warns Jin-hyuk to keep his guard way up. Go all out or die, those are the only options. Suddenly, Jin-hyuk is dropped into a pitch-black, empty void. He realizes this is the true test of the Dragon Temple. He senses a presence closing in through the dark. Footsteps echo. It is that same armored warrior from before, but the vibes are completely different this time. The void begins to pulse with light. Jin-hyuk wonders if he has been warped to a whole new battlefield. He sizes up the armored figure. Is this the boss, or just another warm-up round before the nightmare? Is this just a snack before the main course? But the armored entity is not interested in small talk. It ignores his questions entirely. To Jin-hyuk's shock, the warrior actually speaks, telling him to get ready. The trial is officially live. This is not just a puppet, this thing has a soul and a voice. The steel-clad warrior lunges with blinding speed, a lethal reminder that mercy is off the table. Meanwhile, back at Jin-hyuk's neighborhood, a squad of shadows draped in high-tech masks and obsidian hoods flickers across the skyline, leaping from rooftop to rooftop. My bad boss, one phantom whispers his voice, laced with dread, as they fail to pinpoint Kang Jin-hyuk's hideout. Even though they scouted the exact coordinates, the place was a ghost town. Tension thickens among the hunters, like heavy fog. Failure isn't an option. If they return empty-handed, Kang Jintai will personally end their lives. They have to find him at any cost. The leader's eyes glow with malice. Level everything he commands. Burn the whole block to the ground. He figured they'd flush him out eventually. But before the first torch could drop, one of the assassins suddenly hits the deck. Blood blossoms across the cold concrete. The remaining two freeze their brains, struggling to process the instant execution. No time to scream. No time for backup. Lucia strikes like a vengeful gale before they can even draw a breath. With the trash cleared, Lucia glides back into the apartment. Secretary Lee Hae-na rushes over, her eyes wide with worry. The Titan Guild's dogs were sniffing around, Lucia states flatly. The name alone sends a shiver down Hae-na's spine. Fear ripples across Hae-na's face, but Lucia just shrugs it off. Relax. I took out the trash quietly. Having eavesdropped on their plan to flatten the neighborhood, Lucia's intuition is locked in. There's no doubt now. The enemy is dead certain that the Titan Guild's master and his secretary are bunkering down in this exact spot. Lucia's gaze softens with a grim reality. Sorry, Hae-na. If they bring the whole circus, I can't hold the line alone. Pray that Kang Jin-hyuk evolves fast, she whispers. He's the only wildcard left who can flip this losing script. Far away, Jin-hyuk is caught in a meat grinder as the armored juggernaut lunges for his throat. Paralyzed by pure pressure, he watches in slow motion as the blade ghost slices his neck. Pure, unadulterated terror takes over. He grips his throat, waiting for the crimson spray. But the world glitches, dragging him back to the silent temple chamber. Gasping for air, he checks for a wound that isn't there. Then a raspy chuckle breaks the silence. It's that damn old man again. Take a breath, kid, the elder scoffs. That death zone was just a high-stakes simulation. You're physically fine, for now. Death there doesn't mean death here, so stop shaking. Jin-hyuk swallows his fear, forcing his racing heart to settle. That voice, he knows it. He spins around just as the door clicks shut, confirming his hunch about the mysterious hermit. You're still pathetic, the old man barks. This dragon temple isn't a playground. It's a forge designed to sharpen you. It's a trial of fire and blood. I told you, brat, never ever let your guard down, even for a heartbeat. Raw power is just half the battle. True strength is about how many times you can crawl back up after being broken. Stop whining and focus. Sharpen your senses, and prepare to face the nightmare all over again. Jin-hyuk isn't trying to hear a philosophy lesson. His clock is ticking, and the stakes are way too high for Zen advice. If the hunters breach the hideout, Sangho and Hae-na are as good as dead. Their lives are in his hands. If Jin-tai shows his face now, it's game over. He needs an immediate power-up or everyone he cares about burns. A heavy door stands between him and his only chance. Open up, he roars, slamming his fists against the cold stone. I messed up. All right. I get it now. I won't drop my guard again. I swear on my life. Without power, everything he's fought for is just a beautiful dream turning into a nightmare. He needs strength now. The elder sighs, knowing Jin-hyuk is just rushing back to a repeat execution. But the boy's gaze is like tempered steel. I won't know my limits until I break them, he shouts, his desperation radiating through the door like a physical shockwave. The old man pauses. Most people crumble after tasting death, but this kid's hunger is only growing. It's intriguing. If I were scared of the Reaper, I never would have stepped into this world, Jin-hyuk growls, his resolve unshakable. A grin tugs at the old man's lips. Fine, you crazy brat. I'll give you one more shot at destiny. The world warps and he's back in the arena. The armored titan actually nods, seemingly impressed by the boy's return. I was sloppy last time, Jin-hyuk spits, gripping his weapon. But this time I'm leaving with your head. With a thunderous roar, the titan leaps, bringing down a mountain of steel. Klang Jin-hyuk actually holds his ground. His enchanted bat vibrates up his arms, but the entity's skill is on a whole different level. Every second is a struggle. The armored beast realizes his prey has evolved. Jin-hyuk's teeth grind together as the sheer weight of the attack threatens to crush him. He needs to ground himself, focus the aura. If he can just explosive channel his energy into his legs, he can push back. He floods his lower body with raw power. Just one opening. One tiny gap in that defense is all he needs to survive. Gritting his teeth, Jin-hyuk pours every ounce of raw power into a desperate shove, staggering the ironclad giant. The brutal kickback nearly sweeps him off his feet, but he digs in. Head-on clashes are suicide. He needs a hit-and-run strategy. Eyeballing a gap in the defense, Jin-hyuk explodes forward, launching himself into a high-altitude strike against the Titan. The warrior is low-key impressed by the kid's aura control, but there is a fatal flaw. Jin-hyuk's energy is only pooling in his legs. His torso is wide open, allowing the armored figure to easily swat him away. It feels like the monster is reading his mind. With a cold scoff, the figure respects his moxie but warns that if this is his peak, this battle is already over. Just perish, he sneers, unleashing a devastating follow-up. To his shock, Jin-hyuk catches the blow with a perfect parry. The warrior did not see that coming. Jin Hyuk spits back that he is not going down easily. He was just testing a theory. His hunch was dead on. This armored freak is not just fast, he is predicting every move by tracking the flow of Jin Hyuk's aura. The giant lets out a mocking laugh. Sure, the kid has talent, but knowing the secret will not save him from his inevitable fate. It is a bitter pill to swallow, but Jin Hyuk knows the monster is right. Pure skill is not enough to close this massive power gap. If he keeps using his aura like this, he is just walking right into his enemy's trap again. Time for a complete tactical shift. He flashes open his inventory and chugs a mana potion to refuel his depleted tanks. The plan is to cloak his whole body in aura to mask his intent. But before the last drop hits his throat, the adversary lunges. Thanks to his insane reflexes, Jin Hyuk narrowly dances away from the lethal strike just in time. Watching Jin Hyuk shroud himself in a full-body aura veil, the figure asks if he is relying on that booster drug again. He mocks the boy for leaning on a borrowed substance, claiming that artificial strength will never match true mastery. Jin Hyuk does not care about fairness as long as he wins. Brandishing his enchanted bat, he prepares for the next round. He blurs across the room, weaving through blows and striking back with heavy impact. The armored titan retaliates with crushing force. Strikes rain down from every angle, but Jin Hyuk refuses to back down. The armored warrior finally starts taking him seriously. He has gone from a nuisance to a legitimate threat, but Jin Hyuk knows he is much more. The two clash in a struggle for dominance. Violent sparks and shockwaves explode as steel meets magic, pushing both fighters to their absolute breaking point. The figure praises the kid's grit, but mid-sentence Jin Hyuk executes a sudden gravity-defying leap. This is going to hurt, he warns, before diving back into the fray. Meanwhile, Hyun-il and Lee Jun-chul cruise through the neighborhood, spotting Titan Guild goons desperately scouring the streets for Seo Sang-ho. Hyun-il knows getting caught would be a total disaster, but Lee Jun-chul tells him to keep his cool and stay under the radar. One wrong move could blow their cover. He tells Hyun-il to sit tight and watch, because he is already cooking up a scheme. Jun-chul whips out his phone, making a high-stakes call to Lee Hae-na Sang-ho's personal secretary. He fishes for info on Jin Hyuk and Sang-ho. She instantly remembers Jun-chul as the guy who hooked Jin Hyuk up with a doctor. Jun-chul cuts to the chase. How is Sang-ho Hae-na? Confirms the boss is breathing and out of immediate danger. He is being treated as we speak. Keeping his voice steady, Jun-chul mentions he is currently staked out near Jin Hyuk's place. The Titan Guild is crawling all over the block, meaning they are dead certain their leader is hiding somewhere nearby. If they do not clear out soon, Sang-ho will wake up in the middle of a literal war zone and a total blockade. To fix this mess, Jun-chul suggests an urgent face-to-face meeting. Back at the Dragon's Temple, the armored warrior stands completely unscathed, having tanked that massive bone-shattering blow like it was nothing. He mocks Jin Hyuk's look of pure shock, daring the hunter to show him whatever desperate tricks he is still hiding. Jin Hyuk cannot believe it, even his lightning did not leave a scratch. He realizes his bag of tricks is finally empty. It is all or nothing now. He is betting everything on one final clash, and the armored figure is happy to oblige. He promises a strike so massive it will end everything. Suddenly, a terrifying pressure starts radiating from the warrior. Jin Hyuk white-knuckles his bat. Sensing the holy light pouring off his enemy, he scoffs. What are you, some kind of paladin? The giant corrects him he is something far greater. Then, with a chilling calm, he asks if Jin Hyuk is ready to die. Jin Hyuk does not flinch. He has been ready for this since the start. As the Titan charges, Jin Hyuk knows. Fancy footwork will not save him now. This fight will be decided by one thing: raw, unadulterated power. Pouring every drop of aura into his defense, Jin Hyuk braces himself as the divine energy crashes against him. The temple walls tremble from the catastrophic impact, while Jin Hyuk desperately fights to survive the warrior's ultimate move. Retreat isn't an option. It's game over. The ironclad warrior senses the sudden shift in strategy. Forget everything else. Jin funnels his entire aura into a single explosive point. He's betting it all on one strike, but his foe strikes back hard. Jin wobbles, his energy shattering. The armored titan sneers that this won't be enough to win. The tension peaks. He lunges, and their steel collides with a deafening violent crash. Gravity crushes him, yet Jin refuses to kneel. Blown back, he hits the dirt hard. He grips his bat, his trembling frame screaming in agony. He survived the impact, but his tank is bone dry. Moving even an inch feels impossible now. The warrior looms over him. Is this your limit, he asks, leveling his weapon at Jinuk's throat. You only broke a sword. Pathetic. A shattered blade is easily swapped for a searing aura edge. Jinuk is a husk. How can he possibly keep fighting this monster? Without a plan, you're dead. Jinuk's lungs burn as he gasps for air. Shut up and finish it, he snarls. I've got zero regrets. Death is just a reset button. He'll keep grinding this trial until he's strong enough to win. The warrior stops. Trial over. You got it twisted. Killing me was never the real mission. I'm the judge here. This was a test of your character, not your strength. Hope flares in Jinuk's eyes. Could he actually pass? You passed. Barely. But you've still got a long way to go. The armor vanishes. In its place sits the old man on the throne. He was the enemy. Solid potential, the elder admits, but that ego, it needs a major nerf. Overconfidence isn't bravery. Still, that sheer grit, he liked that. Jinook's refusal to quit left a mark. The realization finally hits him. He tries to speak, but a gesture silences him. Time for the upgrade. Aura is just divine energy. To grow, you must connect. The elder touches his forehead. I've taken a liking to you. Don't waste this. Before he can process reality warps. He's somewhere very, very different. A massive dragon looms. Pure, unadulterated panic sets in. Don't trip, the dragon rumbles. The judge says you're worthy of the real deal. Take this power. You survived the gauntlet. Now witness the birth of a divine champion. Energy floods his soul. This is the resting place of a benevolent god. Terrified or not, that god-tier power is officially part of his DNA now. Meanwhile, Jun-chul pulls up to the apartment. Inside, Lucia is spiraling. Jinook's late and her anxiety is hitting hard. Something's wrong. Suddenly the air itself begins to crackle and hum. She rushes to the attic. The dungeon portal is pulsing. He did it. A monstrous aura bleeds through. Footsteps echo. Jinook steps out. Lucia freezes her brain, completely short-circuiting. That insane pressure, it's coming from him. No way. What's with that face? Jinook asks, totally oblivious to his glow-up. Questions scream in her mind. How did he survive that temple nightmare? Fury boils over. She draws her blade and lunges at him. You reckless idiot, she screams, her heart still racing. I told you greed gets people killed. She urged him to retreat before her strike landed, but Jin-hyuk parried it with a burst of divine mana. He stood his ground, claiming this gamble was his only shot at true power. Without taking that lethal risk, this overwhelming strength would have remained out of reach. Lucia clenched her fists in silence, frustrated by his stubbornness yet stunned by his explosive growth. Stay sharp, she warned, because, if you kick the bucket, my ticket back home goes up in smoke. Jin-hyuk gave a confident smirk, promising that he wouldn't let things spiral out of control again. Seeing his resolve, she decided to leave the chaos at the apartment entirely in his hands. When he asked if she was heading back to the dungeon, she admitted she needed a serious break. Besides, he looked more than ready to hold down the fort. With that, Lucia turned to leave. Jin-hyuk tossed her a quick thanks, but she waved it off with a cold, don't mention it. She claimed her help was purely selfish. After all, his death would ruin the dungeon's balance. She reminded him that every choice has a price before heading to the boss room's magic circle. She'd be camping out there for a while, and his payment a massive stash of premium sweets. One more thing, she added. Once she is back inside the Veil, hiding this apartment will finally vanish. The Titan Guild will track this hideout instantly, and they will be coming for blood. Find a way out, she muttered, before dissolving into the shadows. Jin-hyuk then headed for the lounge. Lee Jun-chul nearly jumped out of his skin, but the secretary's face lit up at Jin-hyuk's return. Jin-hyuk wasted no time asking for a sitrep. Haina stepped up to deliver the news. Seo Sang-ho was pulling through, and the enemy scouts were dealt with a brief moment of relief. But a bigger question loomed: why the hell was Lee Jun-chul sitting in his living room? Jun-chul explained he could not reach him any other way, so he decided to crash the party in person. Jin-hyuk narrowed his gaze. This man did not move unless there was something massive on the line. Something was definitely brewing. Then out of nowhere, Jun-chul dropped a literal bombshell of a proposal. He wanted to start a brand new guild with Jin-hyuk. Lee Haina immediately snapped at the suggestion. She was pissed he was not offering an escape plan instead. Jun-chul just told everyone to chill. He laid out the cold, hard facts. Even if Seo Sang-ho recovered, the Titan Guild was now off limits. The lack of a rescue mission proved they had been abandoned. That organization was rotten to the core. You cannot fix something that is already dead inside. They needed a fresh start, a whole new foundation. He planned to build that future with Lee Hae, in placing Kang Jin-hyuk at the very center. He slid his phone across the table, revealing a mountain of data he had been prepping in secret. The files showed insane resources from funding to the physical infrastructure needed for a top-tier guild. He even had a roster of elite recruits and high-tech facilities ready to go. Haina was stunned by the detail, but she knew even this was not enough to take down Titan. How do we fight those monsters? She questioned. And more importantly, how do we handle Kang Jun-tae? Jun-chul revealed he had a secret weapon for that, but it relied on one impossible condition. Could Jin-hyuk actually take down Kang Jun-tae in a real fight? Jin-hyuk just looked confused. Why him and not the veteran Sang-ho? Jun-chul knew Sang-ho was too battered to fight soon. Their window of opportunity was closing fast. He had heard Jin-hyuk already survived a clash with Jun-tae. If those rumors were legit, then this crazy plan might actually have a shot at working. If it was just hype, they would walk away and pretend this meeting never happened. It was all or nothing. Everything rested on whether Jin-hyuk had the raw power to challenge the Titan's king. If he did, Jun-chul was ready to bet his entire life on him. Jin-hyuk could not help but smirk. He demanded the details before making a move. Meanwhile, the scene shifted to a different battlefield. Jo Wan-chul, the Tyrant Guild's savage leader, was busy pulverizing Titan members for invading his turf. He sneered at them, noting how their reputation was already in the gutter after the recent scandals. After the all-round mess, he expected them to lie low. Instead, the Titan Guild stayed aggressive. They've been invading tyrant territory. If Titan wants smoke, Jo Won-chul is ready to tear them apart. Back at the apartment, Jun-chul reveals his play drag the Tyrant Guild into the crossfire. It's a classic move, fighting fire with fire. Tyrant is a massive powerhouse that rivals Titan's scale. Led by S-class hunter Jo Won-chul, they actually have the muscle to crush Titan's forces. But Lee Hee-na points out the obvious. Tyrant is currently falling apart after the all-round disaster. She doubts they'd risk a full-scale war while their organization is so badly compromised. Jun-chul just smirks, claiming that baiting them into a bloodbath is easier than she thinks. Titan's been greedy lately, snatching up land that used to be under Tyrant's control. While every guild wanted a piece, Titan's expansion has been straight-up disrespectful and violent. Give them the right spark, and Tyrant will launch a brutal retaliatory strike on Titan immediately. Lee Hee-na and Jin Hyuk lock eyes, realizing it's finally time to drop their biggest bombshell. Jun-chul is totally lost. Then Jin Hyuk drops it. They were the ones who leaked Tyrant's dirty laundry. They exposed the dark secrets that crippled the organization. Suddenly, everything makes sense. Finally, the puzzle pieces click together in Jun-chul's head. He realizes why Titan moved so perfectly. They had inside info. This leverage is absolute gold. This justification is undeniable. Once Tyrant finds out, they'll hunt Titan to the ends of the earth. While the giants clash, our trio will strike from the shadows like a deadly third party. They'll use the chaos to wipe out Titan's corrupt leaders, Han Young-suk and Kang Jun-tae. That's the master plan. Jin Hyuk grins, already prepared to handle his end of the bargain. For Jun-chul, this deal locks in their ultimate goal, the birth of a brand new guild. Inspired by myths, Jin Hyuk names it Pantheon, the temple of gods who once overthrew the Titans. The name hits perfectly. Both Jun-chul and Hee-na agree it's the ultimate flex for their mission. There's no time to waste. They decide to pull the trigger on the plan right now. Jun-chul orders Secretary Lee to feed the intel to Tyrant while scouting for potential Titan defectors. She's also tasked with finding anyone in Titan ready to switch sides to their new organization. While Jun-chul handles the gear he needs Jin Hyuk to solve one specific, massive problem. Guild leader So Sang-ho is currently a sitting duck and can't make a single move. They need a way to keep the heat off Sang-ho until the two major guilds collide. Jin Hyuk has a plan. Meanwhile, Titan's goons are busy chasing ghosts in the Sector D slums. Fooled by a clever illusion, they report that Hee-na and Jin Hyuk are cornered and fleeing. Up on a rooftop, young Dae-hyun watches the chaos unfold. Jin Hyuk thanks him for buying time. Dae-hyun is just happy to help, but he's dying to know about that rebellion Jin Hyuk mentioned. He wants the tea. Jin Hyuk explains that Han Young-suk tried to stage a coup against Sang-ho. That's why the guild leader is hiding out with them right now. Sang-ho begged for backup, and Jin Hyuk delivered, which is why Titan is hunting them like animals. He tells Dae-hyun that Kang Jun-tae almost took him out, which sends shockwaves through the guy. But Jin Hyuk isn't worried he's strong enough to handle Jun-tae on his own now. The real reason he called, he wants Dae-hyun to join Pantheon. Cut to Tyrant's third branch. Jo Won-chul gets word that Titan didn't just murder Al Round, they're the ones who snitched. His assistant reveals that Sang-ho's own secretary was the one who delivered the proof. She supposedly did it for the bag, claiming she was done with her guild anyway. The report says Titan raided the lab to steal the Magic Stone artifact that night. After killing Al Round, they leaked the story to the press to cover their own tracks. Hearing this, Jo Won-chul's entire body shook with pure, unadulterated rage. Digging his nails into his palms, he ground his teeth in pure fury. There was no way he'd let Titan's twisted agenda play out on his watch. He snapped at his assistant to mobilize every available fighter immediately, since the stakes had officially spiraled out of control. The Tyrant Guild was throwing the first punch. From that second, they declared an all-out bloodbath against the Titan Guild. Back at Titan HQ, a scout crashed through the gates, gasping for air. His lungs burned with every desperate breath. His face twisted in sheer terror. He delivered the bombshell to Jun-tae, and Han Young-suk, the Tyrant Guild, was raiding their territory. Young-suk questioned if they were out for blood after losing their turf. The lackey adds a bombshell. Jo Won-chul is personally leading the slaughter. He has declared total war against the Titans. Young-suk bolts upright, completely floored by the news. Stunned, he demands to know why the hell he is just hearing about this now. Panic sets in as he barks for Won-chul's coordinates. His subordinate answers instantly. Their intercept teams are moving out, but Won-chul is already a whirlwind of rage. He is pulverizing anyone in reach. Then he literally hoists a bus and hurls it like a toy. That raw power petrifies the Titans, forcing a retreat. They try to regroup and circle him, but he vanishes mid-blink, reappearing a massive distance away in a heartbeat. His godlike speed is terrifying. Every squad sent to stop him simply stops responding. They are all getting slaughtered, making it impossible to pin down the tyrant leader's path. While Young-suk spirals, Jun-tae just smirks. He knew the silence was too good to last. There was zero chance a monster like Wan-chul would take a loss lying down. Young-suk snaps at him, asking if their looming deaths are actually funny to him. He wants to beg the association to step in and shut this nightmare down. The subordinate hesitates, revealing the association already knows everything that is happening. But they have only sent out a generic warning, clearly planning to stay on the sidelines. Jun-tae laughs it off. The association loves this. It is the perfect way to prune the guilds. They will just watch the big players bleed each other dry. Young-suk pivots, desperate for a plan. He orders them to play the civilian safety card to force an intervention. His subordinate's face pales. It won't work. Over in District 9, emergency sirens are blaring through the residential streets. Locals are told to run as the titans and tyrants turn their homes into a war zone. Both guilds have zero chill. They are ready to burn everything down just to kill each other. Sensing the chaos, Jin-hyuk arrives. He spots a terrified child sobbing in the wreckage. Her mom is trapped in a crushed car. A monster lunges, but Jin-hyuk moves like lightning. He tells Hina to get everyone to safety. Protecting the people is now the only priority. Suddenly, the news breaks. A new player called the Pantheon Guild is leading the rescue mission. Young-suk is baffled. Who the hell are these guys? He has never even heard the name. Jun-tae dismisses them as clout chasers. Just another mid-tier guild trying to go viral during a crisis. He thinks they are just vultures, but Young-suk tells him to shut up and look closer. Forget the tyrants for a second. Young-suk realizes something much more dangerous is happening. These rescuers feel connected to Seo Sang-ho, or Jin-hyuk. Jun-tae just rolls his eyes. But the name Pantheon haunts Young-suk. In myths, that was the temple of the deities, the gods who crushed the titans. It is a direct declaration of war against their very existence. The timing is too perfect to be a coincidence. Everything feels like a massive orchestrated setup. The declaration, the sudden assault. It is all too clean. Someone is pulling the tyrant's strings. He is certain Jin-hyuk is the puppet master. Suddenly his phone vibrates with a frantic update. Jo Wan-chul has been spotted. He is charging like a freight train straight for their headquarters. Young-suk's face turns ashen. He looks at Jun-tae. The time for games is over. It is a fight to the death now. He asks if Jun-tae can actually kill that monster. Jun-tae's eyes burn with a dark, lethal intensity. He gives a chilling, bloodthirsty guarantee. Wan-chul isn't just coming for a fight. He is walking straight into his own funeral. On the front lines, tyrant members realize the titans are trash, but their numbers are endless. The titans play dirty, raining fire spells on the crowd to spark pure, unadulterated chaos. But Wan-chul steps forward. He promises the civilians that his hunters will be their shield. He urges them to seize this chance and flee toward their rally point immediately. Total safety awaits them there. He reminds them to remember Pantheon, the guild that protects the weak, should they face future conflicts. The civilians stare in pure disbelief. It's wild that this guy is shamelessly plugging his guild during a literal life-or-death crisis. Meanwhile, Hyung-il reports the arrival of an association official. The officer quickly locates Jun-chul, confirming he led the rescue before offering sincere thanks. He admits a catastrophe was narrowly avoided. Though the association is taking over now, the official is stunned to find a guild that actually gives a damn about people. Jun-chul accepts the praise with a humble nod, announcing they are a rookie group called Pantheon. He knows the association showed up late, and they're just using pretty words to save face. Regardless, the main objective is met. Pantheon now has a stellar reputation among the survivors, and now, even the big shots respect them. Their job is done. The rest of the play rests on Kang Jin-hyuk's shoulders. Later, the core team debriefs with Jin-hyuk. He warns that this guild-on-guild war will be absolute carnage. Since it's happening downtown, civilians will be in the crossfire. Therefore, Pantheon's top priority is protecting the innocent and building their legend. PR is everything right now. Jun-chul promises they're going all out for the people, but he knows they need a real way to end this bloodshed. Jin-hyuk tells him to chill, he's already got that covered. He pings Da-yeon for the intel on Ju Wan-chul's location, just like he predicted. Wan-chul is charging straight for Titan HQ. It's time for Jin-hyuk to make his move. Haina is curious why track Wan-chul so closely. Jin-hyuk breaks it down for her. If Wan-chul and Kang Jun-tae clash in the city, the fallout will be apocalyptic. Someone's definitely dying. His plan, delete them both at the same time. Haina's jaw drops as she wonders if he's lost his mind. He's strong, sure, but taking on two S-rank solo. That's a suicide mission. Jin-hyuk heads out, ordering his crew to keep the civilians safe. Haina realizes they just have to trust him, do their jobs, and pray he makes it back. Over at the Titan Guild, Wan-chul looms over the skyscraper. Suddenly guards spot him, and panic scrambling to alert the ops room. They scream that the tyrant is at the gates, and demand backup. Wan-chul doesn't even blink, tossing them aside like literal trash. He's got zero interest in small fry. He offers them one path to survival: fetch their guildmaster immediately. One guard frantically radios for the boss, but he's silenced by a brutal blow from Wanchul. Inside, Young-suk realizes the front lines have crumbled. Wanchul is inside. Juntae just smirks, surprised the idiot actually walked right into his grave. He promises to bring Young-suk the tyrant's head as a trophy. Meanwhile, news of the massive guild war is blowing up social media across the nation. To protect the public, the association and police have locked down the entire district, cutting off traffic and sealing the war zones. Emergency shelters are being prepped for everyone in the red zone. The order is clear: evacuate now or risk the consequences. Back at the gate, Wanchul carves through the fodder, declaring Titan's reign is over. He laughs at these elites who can't even slow him down. Total disappointment. The guards realize they're outclassed. An S rank is a force of nature, but still, their commander orders them to hold the line until Juntae arrives to save them. Minutes later, the floor is littered with broken bodies. Wanchul breathes hard, annoyed that Seo Sang-ho hasn't shown his face yet. His men are being slaughtered, and the boss is MIA. Wanchul roars for the old man, but Juntae intercepts him instead, asking who gave him the green light to wreck the place. Wanchul freezes. Juntae announces he's the new king of this hill, delivering a heavy blow that sends Wanchul reeling. Juntae just smirked, dodging the question about Sang-ho's ultimate fate. Why not ask him yourself in the afterlife? He taunted Wanchul. Wanchul snapped back, you're the one catching a one-way ticket to hell today. Juntae cackled at the bluff before they both charged weapons ready to clash. Young-suk froze as he stepped outside, met by a sea of fallen comrades. He called for clerics, but every single healer was busy on other front lines. With every branch locked in combat, no help was coming. They were truly alone. It wasn't just healers. The entire main base had been completely emptied of soldiers. The realization hit Young-suk like a truck. Their forces were spread way too thin. Wanchul's solo raid on HQ was a calculated masterstroke from the very beginning. The war was just a massive distraction. His real goal, total decapitation of the guild. Pure insanity for anyone else but an S-rank hunter, makes the impossible look easy. The entire war now rested on this epic showdown between two monstrous S-rank titans. Deep within the boss room, Lucia obsessed over the data she'd been decoding for days. One more breakthrough with this magic circle, and she'd finally find her way home. Then a devastating thought occurred. Leaving this world meant saying goodbye to her favorite snacks. But her focus soon drifted back to Jin Hyuk. He'd been gone for ages now. She worried briefly, then shrugged it off. That man had become an absolute unit lately, stronger than even the elite S ranks. Meanwhile, the Masters' duel reached a fever pitch. A sapphire aura erupted as Wanchul nuked his rival, but Juntae countered instantly. The energy collided with blinding speed as both titans fought for total dominance. Juntae took flight, aiming a lethal strike meant to split Wanchul's skull open. A translucent mana barrier flared to life, shielding Wanchul from the deadly incoming blade. Juntae slammed his weapon down, triggering a cataclysmic explosion that pulverized the surrounding concrete. Jin Hyuk arrived at the scene, but the sight of the chaos left him disgusted. They were leveling the city, behaving more like mindless monsters than actual human protectors. These selfish heroes had abandoned their duty. Their S-rank power felt like a literal disaster. Witnessing the carnage, Jin Hyuk finally understood why S-ranks are feared as walking natural disasters. Before, he'd have never dared to interfere. But today, the tables have finally turned. Armed with divine energy, he knew he could crush them both. Meanwhile, the duel intensified. Mid-clash, a chilling voice rang out, commanding them both to stay exactly where they were. Jin Hyuk struck like lightning, blasting both masters back before they could even blink. Wanchul glared at the intruder while Jin Hyuk threw a mocking smirk at Juntae. Juntae recognized him instantly, the same pathetic loser who'd run away with his tail tucked. But Wanchul sensed something terrifying, a strange, overwhelming energy radiating from this mysterious newcomer. The sheer pressure Jin Hyuk emitted was unlike any power Wanchul had ever felt before. He couldn't tell if he was facing an A rank or something far beyond an S rank. Does Korea even have hunters like this? Then Jin Hyuk's cold gaze locked onto Wanchul. He recognized the scum who had sacrificed innocent souls to Al Rayyan, yet he didn't attack. Despite the carnage, Jin Hyuk spoke calmly, asking if they actually considered themselves true hunters. He gestured to the smoking ruins and the terrified civilians caught in their selfish crossfire. People were bleeding out, yet he wondered if these two felt even a shred of guilt. Instead of remorse, Juntae just sneered. Guilt was a foreign concept to a man like him. To him, people were just insects. Do you watch where you step when you're crushing bugs? He mocked Jin Hyuk as another naive hypocrite, just like that self-righteous fool Seo Sang-ho. Jin Hyuk scoffs, noting these monsters are lower than beasts, lacking even an ounce of primal sympathy. He mocks them for making this easy, since slaughtering them now requires zero hesitation. His knuckles whiten around his bat. Lethal energy flares from the weapon. He sneers that Juntae's arrogance has finally sealed his fate. Juntae plays dumb, doubling down on his vow to erase both Jin Hyuk and Wanchul from existence. He orders Wan Chul to back off while he crushes this clown. Wan Chul, the snake, shifts into a tactical stance. Shrugging it off, he claims this drama is peak entertainment, but internally, he is calculating every move. If these two idiots exhaust themselves, he will be the one laughing over their corpses. It is a total win. Jin Hyuk goads Wan Chul to jump in, declaring he is more than ready to smoke them both simultaneously. Triggered by the main character's audacity, Juntae snaps. He blurs forward, closing the gap with terrifying godlike speed. Steel aims for his heart, but Jin Hyuk does not flinch casually, raising his bat to tank the incoming strike. The block is flawless. Cold sweat drips down Juntae's face as he never expected his move to be parried. Pure shock. Before Jin Hyuk could not survive one hit. Now he is mocking Juntae's terrified expression. Secretly, he smirks as he has not even broken a sweat. With a violent flick of his glowing enchanted bat, pulsing with divine power, Jin Hyuk blasts Juntae back. Wan Chul's jaw hits the floor in absolute disbelief. Seeing the legendary Juntae get tossed like a rag doll was unthinkable. Jin Hyuk smells blood and lunges. Jin Hyuk charges for the kill, but Juntae barely avoids the lethal blow with a desperate head tilt. Rage boils over as blood trickles from a fresh scratch on Juntae's cheek. He starts charging his deadliest counterattack. Whatever happened, this kid's power is insane. Internally, Juntae finally admits the truth. Jin Hyuk is a monster. He curses his past mercy. Jin Hyuk just cackles, savoring the bitter regret written all over Juntae's face. Witnessing this overwhelming glow, Juntae refuses to humble himself, letting out a prideful, arrogant huff instead. He barks that Jin Hyuk is still a dead man. Jin Hyuk just grins, promising a very different painful ending. He remembers that desperate night he survived by a hair swearing a blood oath to transcend his limits. Revenge for that humiliation is finally here. Juntae braces himself, realizing he is in deep, dangerous trouble. How did this loser become a god? Confusion floods his mind as he tries to solve the mystery of this power. Did he cheat? Then it hits him. Jin Hyuk must have consumed the legendary all-round elixir to level up. He screams the accusation at Jin Hyuk's face, but Wan Chul cuts in before the main character can respond. He demands answers about the elixir. Juntae drops the bomb. Jin Hyuk murdered all-round in cold blood. And he stole the prize. Wan Chul stands frozen, asking if Jin Hyuk really pulled off the heist, for ending all-round and snatching the loot. Jin Hyuk just smirks, pulling out the glowing vial as the ultimate flex. He waves the bottle tauntingly, asking if they recognize it. The moment Wan Chul's eyes lock onto the elixir, his face turns a demonic shade of red. Blinded by greed and fury, he lunges at Jin Hyuk like a predator. Jin Hyuk goes through the attack, making Wan Chul even more livid. He swings a massive earth-shattering punch. Only dirt explodes as Jin Hyuk vanished like a phantom. Wan Chul desperately tries to corner him in a trap, but Jin Hyuk effortlessly leaps to safety. He knows one clean hit would have been game over, feeling a rush. That was a close call, and he is relieved. But suddenly something buzzing in the sky catches his eye. A high-tech drone hovers above. A robotic voice blares that it is initiating a global livestream for the world. It is the ultimate S-rank showdown. The entire district has turned into a smoking post-apocalyptic war zone. Amidst the rubble, the world watches as a mysterious new player enters the fray, shaking the hunter hierarchy. All eyes are on Jin Hyuk. The media is scrambling to identify this unknown warrior dominating the S-rankers. He is dominating two legends at once. Elsewhere, Secretary Lee Hee-na watches the chaos with a calculating gaze. She exhales satisfied. Everything is going exactly to plan now that the media is broadcasting their glorious victory. The stage is set. Juntae watches in horror, unable to comprehend the sheer speed of Jin Hyuk's movements. He is dancing around the tyrant guildmaster. Even worse, Jin Hyuk's counters are hitting like a freight train. Every strike lands with lethal precision. Juntae spirals into madness, desperate to know the secret of this power. Meanwhile, the legendary Wan Chul is getting absolutely folded by Jin Hyuk's overwhelming might. Tasting dirt, he scrambles up, snarling that Jin Hyuk is toying with him. The realization sends his rage into overdrive. Convinced that Jin Hyuk views him as trash, he bellows at Juntae to back off and stay out of his way. "I'll be the one to end you," Wan Chul vows, throwing every ounce of power into a desperate explosive charge. He claims the tide is finally turning, but his words drip with nothing but pure pathetic delusion. Utterly dominated and unable to graze his opponent, Jin Hyuk repels him with nothing but his raw, naked fists. Same old story, Jin Hyuk scoffs, lunging forward with zero mercy to crack his skull with a brutal bat strike. Wan Chul barely tanks the blow, as Juntae shadows him lunging from the blind spot with a lethal sneak attack. Too bad for him, Jin Hyuk is playing a different game, casually swatting the strike away with his bat. Without even glancing back, the sheer force of Jin Hyuk's parry explodes Juntae's spear into a million splinters. Pure terror grips Juntae as Jin Hyuk closes in the crushing shockwave, sending him collapsing into the dirt. Cornered and desperate, Wan Chul swallows his pride, demanding an alliance with his former rival to survive. He proposes a temporary truce to crush Jin Hyuk, but Juntae's eyes flicker with deep, jagged suspicion. "Betray me and you're dead," Juntae hisses, while Wanchul barks orders for him to get in formation now. He argues that their only prayer of surviving Jin Hyuk is to fuse their lethal powers into a single strike. Elsewhere, news anchors announce that the two S-rank titans locked in this brutal war have finally been identified. Yet the mystery hunter remains a total enigma, and the Titan Guildmaster is still nowhere to be found. Right on cue, the camera shifts to Seo Sang-ho, who is finally stirring from his deep, death-like slumber. Waking up, he ignores his broken body and immediately dresses, prioritizing the guild's falling honor over his own recovery. Ready to move, he searches for Hyena just as she picks up a frantic call while racing toward the battlefield. She is stunned, he is conscious, and rapidly dumps a mountain of intel about the chaotic war unfolding outside. Sang-ho demands her position, and she admits she is speeding toward the center of the kill zone. She reveals Jin Hyuk's new guild and her own defection, leaving Sang-ho's mind reeling from the massive bombshell. He tries to reach Jin Hyuk for answers, but Hyena warns him that a direct line is currently impossible. Jin Hyuk is currently fighting two S-rank monsters at once. At that revelation, So Sang-ho bolts upright, ready. Certain that no one survives a double S-rank onslaught, he barks for the coordinates one last time. He is heading out himself. Hyena tries to protest for his health, but his resolve is absolute and unshakable. Blaming himself for this mess, the guildmaster refuses to rot in bed while his world burns down. Relenting, she transmits the battle site, choosing to put total faith in his legendary strength despite his injuries. She realizes he is the sole player on the board capable of quenching the flames of this devastating conflict. Hyena knows hesitation is a death sentence. She must lock in and execute her role perfectly right now. Back at the front, Juntae scrambles for even one lucky hit, but he is getting absolutely dismantled by Jin Hyuk. Jin Hyuk reads every twitch like an open book, swatting away desperate strikes with zero effort. As the clash escalates, shockwaves tear through the air. While Jin Hyuk focuses his attention on Juntae, Wanchul lunges from the shadows to deliver a killing blow, only to realize Jin Hyuk is light years ahead. He blurs upward, nearly baiting the two S-ranks into a collision. Noticing his partner's mana is hitting zero, Wanchul orders him to chug a mana potion while he tanks the heat. Juntae bristles at the partnership. Swallowing his pride, he realizes it is their only shot, unsealing a potion and draining it in one gulp. Their only path to victory, channeling every drop of their remaining mana into one final world-ending strike. While Juntae recharges, his partner is getting absolutely cooked, trying to hold Jin Hyuk's overwhelming pressure solo. Snatching Wanchul's fist midair, Jin Hyuk's gaze turns ice cold as he asks why he is holding back. He sneers, demanding more effort before snapping the S-rank's wrist like a dry twig in one fluid motion. After shattering his arm, he launches him with a bat swing. Juntae watches his invincible ally get ragdolled. Hovering over the broken hunter, Jin Hyuk looms like a grim reaper, asking if he is still even alive. He informs Wanchul that death is his only sentence for the vile crime of trafficking innocent women. They were mere sacrifices for Al Rayan. He imprisoned dissenters, while his loyal lackeys enforced his dark, twisted will. High on their own supply, they were drowning. This nightmare was just the karma he'd earned. Gasping for air in the dirt, Wanchul couldn't believe his legendary run was ending so pathetically. Jin Hyuk hovered his bat over the hunter's heart, demanding last words. The S-ranker stared back with pure hopelessness. Stunned that he was dying over something so minor, the man began shamelessly pleading for mercy. He promised Jin Hyuk the Guildmaster throne for his life. But Jin Hyuk wasn't there to make deals. He only wanted to hear a final wish. Jin Hyuk's cold mind was already set on an execution. Even after watching those innocent people rot in cages, Wanchul still didn't get it. He couldn't grasp why kidnapping warranted death. To Jin Hyuk, though, the reason was crystal clear. He slammed the bat down, impaling Wanchul. A blood-curdling scream erupted as the weapon tore through his chest. His brain screamed that this couldn't be the end, but reality didn't care about his denial. Darkness swallowed him whole. Standing over the corpse, Jin Hyuk told him to apologize to his victims in hell. That apology would have to wait for the afterlife. Nearby, Juntae watched in terror, weighing his chances. He considered a sneak attack while Jin Hyuk was busy, but the sheer panic in his eyes told everything. He knew he stood zero chance. Every instinct screamed to run, but the exit was already closed off. Jin Hyuk spotted the runner and launched his bat like a missile, mocking him for trying to bail. The bat zoomed like a sniper round, and the S-ranker barely swiped it away. Juntae tried to play it cool, claiming he wasn't fleeing but just sparing Jin Hyuk. The guy actually thought his speed was superior. He was convinced he could vanish. Big mistake, Jin Hyuk was on him in the blink of an eye. He warned him not to hold anything back. Meanwhile, Seo Sang-ho and Hyena arrived at the ruins. She guided him to the spot, pointing out the war zone just ahead. But before he charged in, she begged him to rethink this one last time. However, his resolve was already rock solid. He couldn't just leave Jin Hyuk to fight alone. Hyena urged him to rest and heal his wounds first. He insisted on finishing what he began. Seeing his fire, she finally relented, warning him not to overdo it. Don't push past your limit. Heading out, Sung-ho looked to the heavens and prayed Jin-hyuk could hold on. Up on a rooftop, Young-sok watched the chaos unfold. This mess was getting way too complicated for comfort. This was supposed to be a straightforward S-rank duel. Young-sok never saw this wild card coming. A monster even stronger than S-ranks had crashed the party. As things escalated, the truth finally hit him. He had to ditch Juntae. There was no saving him now. Young-sok's only goal was building the ultimate guild. He saw Sang-ho as a roadblock to his destiny, so he took him out with poison. He figured with Sang-ho gone, nothing could stop him from building his dark empire. He glanced at Jin-hyuk and decided to let him live for now. His main goal was making a getaway. He needed to start spinning the story his way. But before Sang-ho left to back up Jin-hyuk, Hyena dropped a bombshell. Her drone surveillance had caught a suspicious figure lurking on a rooftop. She'd tagged Young-sok perched atop the Titan building. Suddenly, the guildmaster appeared. Sang-ho materialized right behind the traitor. Young-sok froze his entire body, shaking in pure disbelief. Sang-ho lunged, grabbing him by the collar and roaring his name. He demanded an explanation for the betrayal. How could he betray his own blood? Young-sok just sneered, asking if Sang-ho was really that clueless. He claimed the guild had outgrown its leader. Those words cut the guildmaster deeper than any blade. He ranted that Sang-ho was just dead weight holding back their true potential. Sang-ho saw through the lies, calling out the weak excuses for what they really were. This was nothing but pure, selfish greed. Young-sok barked back, trying to flip the script. He argued he was the savior protecting the guild. Sang-ho wasn't buying any of it. The guild was burning down because of Young-sok's own schemes and backstabbing. Out of words, the traitor summoned his blade and lunged for the guildmaster's throat. Despite his injuries, Sang-ho ghosted the attack, whispering how much Young-sok's weakness truly disappointed him. Even at death's door, that desperate move gave Young-sok a window to bolt. He took off his mind full of pathetic excuses. He deluded himself that his crimes were for a greater good. Cursing Jin-hyuk for ruining his plan, he prepared to jump. As he leaped off the skyscraper, the guildmaster refused to let this traitor escape justice. He lunged after him, summoning his blade. While Young-sok was still midair, the master closed the gap. Sang-ho's axe carved through the sky with lethal intent. The weapon slammed into the coward's skull. Sang-ho roared for him to take full responsibility for the blood he had spilled. A gut-wrenching scream echoed as Young-sok's head split open. His lifeless body plummeted like a stone to the pavement below. Standing over the corpse, Sang-ho finally felt his duty was done. Suddenly, a realization hit him he had forgotten about Jin-hyuk. He'd wasted far too much time on this rat. He turned and sprinted back toward the war zone to support his ally. But Jin-hyuk didn't need help. He was already absolutely dominating the S-rank hunter Juntae without breaking a single sweat. Gasping for air after a devastating chest blow, Juntae looked up. Jin-hyuk was pointing his bat directly at his throat. "Is this the end?" Jin-hyuk asked coldly. Juntae realized there was no exit. He had hit his absolute limit. Clinging to life, the S-rank began to wail. He offered riches and his entire guild position just for a second chance. He'd give up everything just to breathe. Coldly, Jin-hyuk reminded the pathetic hunter of their first brutal encounter. Even with a spear through his own gut, back then, Jin-hyuk hadn't uttered a single cowardly plea for his life. He had fought until the bitter end. Yet this supposed elite kept sobbing. Before delivering the final blow, Jin-hyuk spoke. He spat that only those who struggle deserve to live. Before another word could escape Juntae's lips, the end arrived. Jin-hyuk's bat swung, obliterating the man's head instantly. Standing over the body, the young warrior took a silent breath. He had finally done it. He'd erased S-rank threats using nothing but his own sheer power. Suddenly a voice called out. Sang-ho rushed over frantically, asking if he was injured. Jin-hyuk was stunned to see the guildmaster looking so healthy. He asked when the master had awakened. Sang-ho grinned, telling him he'd been back in the game for a while now. When asked for the story, Jin-hyuk shrugged. He mentioned he'd just gotten lucky with a massive opportunity to evolve. Thanks to that growth, he was able to put those S-rank hunters in the dirt where they belonged. The guildmaster still couldn't wrap his head around such an insane power spike in such a short amount of time. Seeing the shock, Jin-hyuk promised a full debrief later. For now, they had to address the total destruction of the city. Sang-ho told him to chill, he and Hyena would handle the cleanup. But there was a more pressing matter to discuss. Hyena sent word that the big shots at the Hunter Association were practically begging for a meeting with Jin-hyuk. The scene shifts to the association's high-tech training facility. Jin-hyuk stood there looking completely annoyed and confused. He'd accepted the invite, but he still had no clue why he was being treated like a lab rat in this room. This whole situation felt sketchy. Suddenly, an intercom crackled as an unidentified voice filled the training chamber. It announced that an evaluation was starting. His mission was to annihilate the drones while dodging their lethal laser barrages. Before he could even roll his eyes, the machines initiated their assault. His warrior instincts kicked in immediately to deal with them. Drones swarmed from every angle, making evasion a nightmare for anyone else. But compared to his recent S-rank battles, this wasn't even a decent warm-up. Smirking with confidence, Jin Hyuk decided to show them what a real monster looks like. His bat became a blur, shattering steel into scrap metal. He cleared the entire room in a breathtakingly short amount of time. The voice announced a new record, but Jin Hyuk was just getting irritated. He glared at the observation screen with pure annoyance. Nobody had mentioned a pop quiz. From the control room, a girl quickly tried to explain the official procedure to him. This was mandatory to determine his new rank. After he soloed 2 S-rank hunters, his old title was now irrelevant. Calling him a C rank was literally a joke now. Despite the logic, Jin Hyuk still found this whole test a total drag. His patience was redlining. He demanded they open the door immediately so he could walk out of this farce. The girl tried to placate him with excuses, but it was useless. He was officially done playing their little games. She panicked as he headed for the exit, screaming that the test wasn't officially over until the data was processed. Like he cared. With one massive swing, his bat obliterated the reinforced door into 1,000 splinters. He stepped out, calling the process a massive waste of his day. But the association wasn't finished with him yet. A wall of elite hunters blocked his path just a few feet down the hallway, their weapons drawn and ready. "Move, or die," he growled. They'd all seen the footage. They knew for a fact he wasn't bluffing. The weight of his words sinks in, this is no bluff. The hunters turned to their captain, paralyzed until his next order. Catching the leader's flicker of doubt, Jin Hyuk decides right then their lives end here. Just as he's about to strike, a voice commands him to halt. Before he can even glance back, he watches the hunters drop into deep bows, greeting the newcomer as the chairman. It clicks instantly. The man behind him is Ro Taeksu, the head of the association. Jin Hyuk offers a curt greeting. Why would the big boss summon a mere C rank? Sensing the tension, the chairman offers a sincere apology. He reveals the true motive. A VIP is dying to meet him. That person is none other than South Korea's absolute apex predator, Choi Sang-ho. Even Jin Hyuk is floored to see the rank 1 legend standing there. As the man approaches with effortless grace, Jin Hyuk wonders why a god-tier hunter cares about him. Choi extends a hand for a shake, creating a moment that feels completely surreal. When Jin Hyuk demands answers, the legend admits he watched the recording of his latest bloodbath. Choi praises his skills, claiming he simply wanted to see the man behind the hype in person. Jin Hyuk plays it cool, but he smells a hidden agenda. Sure enough, the top-tier hunter wastes no time asking for a massive favor. Meanwhile, Seo Sang-ho and Hyena are decompressing over tea at his place. She reveals that the shells of the Tyrant and Titan guilds have officially birthed the new Pantheon Guild with the association's blessing. She sighs, lamenting that she couldn't save his old guild. He gently stops her. Disbanding was the only move left. Regret flashes in his eyes. Maybe things wouldn't be this messy if he'd actually listened to his team. With a heavy heart, Seo Sang-ho officially announces his retirement from the hunter life. Hyena slides a contract across the table, insisting his talent is too legendary to waste. After scanning the pages, he realizes it's an invite to the Pantheon Guild. They need his power, and the guildmaster agrees. Startled, he asks if she's already signed her life away to them. With a playful wink, she confirms she's officially on the Pantheon payroll. Cut back to the main event. Jin Hyuk and Choi are locked in a standoff, ready to spar. The absurdity of the situation hits Jin Hyuk. He was dragged into a test room only to face the nation's strongest hunter in a duel. High up in the observation deck, the chairman and his staff watch the live feed. She's stunned that Choi actually showed up in person, especially since the man is a total ghost in public. The chairman smirks. After Choi saw Jin Hyuk humiliate those 2 S ranks, he knew he'd finally found a true comrade, or maybe a rival who can actually keep up. When Jin Hyuk asks why they're clashing, the rank 1 hunter just shrugs. Regardless, Jin Hyuk isn't one to dodge a challenge. As the girl frets over the danger, the chairman just laughs it off, calling it a friendly spar. Down in the arena, Choi summons his blade, and both warriors challenge each other to give it their all. Jin Hyuk's lips curl into a smirk. Rankings mean nothing to him. He just wants revenge for the living hell Choi put him through. Suddenly, Hyena's phone explodes with a call from the association. The rank 1 is fighting Jin Hyuk right now. Seeing her face go pale, Sang-ho knows things just got real and demands to know what's up. She drops the bombshell. Choi Sang-ho is currently engaging Jin Hyuk in combat. Panic sets in for Sang-ho. He asks for a reason, but Hyena is just as clueless as him. Fearing Jin Hyuk is about to be erased, they bolt toward the Hunter Association. Back at the fight, both hunters are circling, waiting for the slightest opening to exploit. The staff member asks the chairman for his professional opinion. Right then, the high icons collide in a deafening explosion of steel. The chairman bets his money on the rank 1 legend taking the win. But in the pit, the power struggle is dead even as both hunters are blown back by the impact. Jin Hyuk realizes Choi is in a league of his own, far beyond any S rank he's ever scrapped with. Checking his power is useless. He decides to skip the warm-up and goes full throttle erupting, with a devastating aura shockwave. Ranking number 1, Chaeyoung stares down the assault, questioning if Jin Hyuk is finally unleashing his true hidden potential. Now, fully locked in, Chaeyoung slices through the crushing aura, blitzing toward Jin Hyuk with lethal intent. Unleashing a fierce counter, he tests Jin Hyuk's resolve, determined to drag his opponent's absolute limits into the light. Watching from the sidelines, the girl's anxiety spikes as the intensity redlines. Even Jin Hyuk feels the sheer weight of this power. Facing the nation's best, Jin Hyuk swings his bat to repel Chaeyoung, his veins buzzing with pure adrenaline-fueled excitement. Clashing with a literal titan is the ultimate flex. This is his golden ticket to smashing through his own glass ceiling. But then a massive plot twist. Chaeyoung abruptly calls it quits, stunning Jin Hyuk mid-clash. Before Jin Hyuk can process the situation, the rank 1 hunter yields, admitting defeat and leaving everyone absolutely speechless. Confused, Jin Hyuk demands answers, while the chairman sits in disbelief. The legendary Chaeyoung has never bowed down before. Why stop the hype now? Chaeyoung lifts his blade, explaining that one more exchange would have spelled total disaster. His steel was screaming. On cue, the blade disintegrates into 1,000 fragments, proving his point. With the duel over, the chairman drops a bomb. Jin Hyuk is officially promoted to the prestigious S rank. The news goes viral instantly, paired with leaked footage of his insane brawl against those 2 S-rank veterans. Every headline screams the impossible. A rookie just took down the nation's undisputed number 1. Dragged into the spotlight, Chaeyoung keeps it real during the interview, confirming his shock loss to the world. He crowns Jin Hyuk as Korea's future icon, but our boy is actually low-key salty about the short fight. The hype died too fast for Jin Hyuk's liking. But as he heads out, Chaeyoung stops him in his tracks. "Welcome to S-Class," Chaeyoung says. Jin Hyuk offers his thanks, acknowledging the massive assist. Why the public shout-out, though? The top hunter drops his mask to reveal his true motivations. He is tired of being solo. He needed the association to witness Jin Hyuk's monstrous power firsthand. As Chaeyoung walks off, Jin Hyuk warns him, "Next time don't you dare go easy on me." He caught him red-handed. Chaeyoung used a cheap knockoff sword during their spar. Game recognized game. Internally, Jin Hyuk realizes he was being coddled. A rank 1 hunter, using a budget blade, that is pure disrespect. Was this all a calculated move to boost his rep? Chaeyoung was definitely playing the long game. Regardless, this encounter was a wake-up call. Jin Hyuk knows he is still miles away from the top. Later at the lot, Hyena drifts into the scene, practically jumping out of her car in a total panic. She and Sang-ho swarm him, frantic for a status check. The viral news cycle had them shaking. The former guildmaster is fuming that the association labeled this lethal clash a mere spar. Putting a rookie against the nation's strongest, that is reckless. He is ready to sue the whole association. But Jin Hyuk is chill. No salt here. Clashing with Chaeyoung was actually a masterclass in survival. That crushing pressure mirrored the nightmare of the Dragon Temple. "Let's bounce back to the guild," he suggests. After the debrief, he finally catches a break, letting the heavy tension melt away for the first time in forever. Peace is a rare drop for a hunter. Being constantly in survival mode has turned his nerves into steel. Finally, room to breathe, until Junshil, the manager, rings him up to break the silence. "Are you still in one piece?" Junshil asks, begging him to stop playing with fire. Power is cool, but being alive is better. As the guildmaster, his survival is non-negotiable. Appreciating the vibes, Jin Hyuk promises to stay safe before pivoting to the guild's current business status. Huge W, they just swallowed the assets of their biggest rivals, Titan and Tyrant whole. Those old enemies are history. Now their newly unlocked hunting zones are absolutely popping with activity. These zones are major level-up hubs, keeping rival guilds far away from their turf. Junshil invites him over, and Jin Hyuk agrees, though he is feeling absolutely drained after the call. Rest is for the weak. Driven by duty, he skips the nap and heads straight back into the dungeon. Closing the gap between him and Chaeyoung is the goal. First stop, the grumpy dwarf craftsman's forge. The dwarf is low-key annoyed, grumbling that Jin Hyuk only visits when he needs a gear carry. After a quick apology, Jin Hyuk demands a serious gear buff. The future won't wait for him to get strong. The dwarf keeps grumbling, calling Jinuk a total flake, who always vanishes the moment he's sent on errands. Jinuk tries to play it cool, promising to make things right before bringing up his recent duel with Chaeyoung. That sets the dwarf off. He snatches the weapon, demanding to know if Jinuk actually lost with his masterpiece. He looks totally insulted by the idea, but then scoffs, telling Jinuk he's actually got some insane luck today. See, the old man's been dying to test a brand new forging technique, and he instantly shuts down Jinuk's thanks. This isn't a favor, he barks, insisting he's only doing this to flex his own legendary craftsmanship. As Jinuk heads out, his mind wanders back to Lucia, wondering how she's been holding up lately. He has a gut feeling she holds the key to his burning questions, so he dives into the dungeon. But a weird chill crawls up his spine. He's definitely forgetting something, he just can't put his finger on it. When he finally tracks down Lucia, she's absolutely livid, nearly swinging on him for showing up without any snacks. Jinook just ignores the heat, asking if she's really been stuck in this exact spot the entire time. She nods, explaining her obsession with a complex magic circle. It's her one-way ticket back to her home realm. She mentions a breakthrough, and Jinook's eyes widen. Does this mean she's ditching this world for good? Lucia just sighs, admitting it's not that easy. She's attempted this dimensional jump dozens of times already. On paper, it's flawless. Every rune is perfect, and the mana flow feels exactly how it should. Yet the result is always a big fat zero. No matter how right the magic feels, nothing ever happens. She's convinced the theory is solid, but the failure is driving her crazy. While she vents her frustration, a bizarre portal starts flickering right inside Jinook's refrigerator. The next morning, Jinook hits up the local supermarket. He grabs a stack of snacks to keep Lucia's temper in check, hoping for a peaceful visit for once. But as he's checking out, the cashier freezes, asking if he's actually the famous guildmaster Kang Jinook. Once he confirms it, the girl totally geeks out, claiming she's a massive fan and begging for a selfie. Suddenly, flashbulbs start popping everywhere as other shoppers realize there's a celebrity in the aisle. Not wanting a full-blown riot, he mumbles an apology, and bolts, finally realizing how famous he has become. Back at the forge, the dwarf unveils the upgraded weapon, boasting that it's on a whole different level now. The moment Jinook grips the bat, he feels it aggressively, sucking the mana right out of his body. He asks if it's broken, which earns him a swift smack to the face from the offended blacksmith. The old man reminds him about that purified Alrauni core, which served as the secret sauce for this upgrade. Normally, Alrauni monsters drain your literal life force, but after the purification, it now devours mana instead. That draining sensation, that's just proof the weapon is hungry and working exactly as intended. Jinook worries he'll be sucked dry, but the dwarf reassures him that the thirst has a limit. Once it hits its fill, the bat stops the drain, meaning its internal battery is finally at max capacity. Now Jinook can unleash all that stored mana whenever he needs to drop a nuclear-level strike. To test his new toy, Jinook squares up against a nearby statue and gives the air a massive swing. A devastating shockwave of pure mana explodes outward, leaving even the grumpy dwarf looking a bit impressed. Jinook tries to be grateful, but the old-timer shuts him up, demanding high-quality booze instead of words. During their break, the dwarf asks about his plans, and Jinook mentions he's heading off to see Lucia. The mood instantly sours. It's clear the dwarf can't stand her, and Jinook can't help but ask why. He pushes for the tea on why they hate each other so much, causing the old man's face to turn grim. It's a long, bloody history, he explains, and they only tolerate each other because they have no other choice. He reveals that dwarves and elves have been locked in a bitter blood feud for countless generations. Apparently, the elves sold out his people to the dragons, a betrayal that leaves Jinook absolutely stunned. He finally understands the weight of that ancient hatred as he makes his way back to find Lucia. She greets him with her usual screaming match, demanding to know what took him so long to arrive. Jinook is confused. Why is she waiting at this temple instead of her usual boss room hideout? Lucia just points to the horizon, telling him to look closer. The entire entrance temple has vanished into thin air. Jinook scans the area, completely stunned. The entrance has vanished into thin air like a glitch. This happened right before the dragon trial ended. Recently, Lucia's scouting uncovered a mysterious ancient magic circle. This array is light years ahead of the boss room's magic. Lucia locks eyes with him, looking dead serious. She asks if he understands the stakes here. Jinook realizes this discovery is his ultimate ticket back home. Returning to his dimension is finally possible, but there's a catch. Lucia can't activate this thing solo. To power it up, he must learn the arcane arts from her and assist with the activation. Jinook blinks in disbelief, asking for a reality check. You want me to learn magic? Seriously. She confirms it's the only way. This circle is a mana hog demanding way more than she can offer. Success isn't guaranteed even with his help. Jinook starts brainstorming how to juice up the massive array. Suddenly it hits him. His bat, which stores mana, might be the perfect high-capacity power bank. He suggests using the weapon as a battery. Lucia's skeptical at first, doubting his blunt instrument's potential. He shows her the mana bleeding off the weapon, explaining a master craftsman upgraded it for storage. He's not sure how much juice is inside, but it's their best shot at jump-starting the circle. But when Lucia reaches out, a violent spark zaps her. The weapon rejects her touch instantly. Jinook's confused until he remembers the dwarf's work. The bat is soulbound, strictly locked to its owner. That's a wrap on the easy fix. They can't use the bat for the activation after all. Their last resort is intense magical tutoring. Lucia declares that, as of now, he's officially her apprentice. Training starts in his apartment. She's not pulling punches, even burying him under a mountain of homework. Between bites of snacks, Jinook realizes he's in over his head. This is way harder than fighting. He must memorize endless arcane lore, while simultaneously mastering the delicate flow of mana. All this knowledge must be applied to trigger the circle. Days turn into a blur of grueling study. Finally, the theory clicks. He's feeling confident, but Lucia is quick to bring him back to earth. That was just the basics, she warns. The real trial begins now, as she reviews the research. She shows him her research notes on the boss room circle. Analysis reveals a fatal design flaw. The mage tried to overclock the mana requirement, but the modifications caused a total system failure. Teleportation worked, but the target shifted, dropping a literal dungeon right into Jinook's bedroom instead. Jinook is baffled. Why are they wasting time discussing a failure that wrecked his house? She explains that comparing a failure to the Dragon Temple's perfect circle reveals exactly what broke. This analysis is crucial for building a flawless version. From then on, they dive deep into research. They obsessed over creating the perfect circle. Over time, Jinook's magical prowess started to skyrocket. Finally, he's ready to channel power. He prepares to flood his mana-filled bat into the array. He transfers the energy into the circle, while Lucia coordinates the flow, waiting for the signal. Suddenly the room ignites. The magic circle pulses with a blinding ethereal light as it wakes up. It's working. The circle is reacting to his power. Jinook just needs to keep the energy steady. But then, disaster strikes. His bat starts leaking aura, a completely different energy, contaminating the mana. He tries to reel it in, but the flow is wild. Even Lucia is caught off guard. "Why are you pumping aura into this?" she screams. Jinook is just as clueless and terrified. They both struggle desperately to stabilize the unstable circle. The air crackles with dangerous energy. Moments later, the ground shudders and gives way. The floor beneath the circle completely collapses. They leap back just in time, narrowly escaping. But their only ticket out is now gone. Lucia loses it, screaming at Jinook for accidentally nuking their only chance at returning home. Meanwhile, the portal in his fridge begins glowing with an ominous intensity. Back at the apartment, over snacks, a defeated Jinook apologizes. He never intended for the bat to discharge aura like that. Lucia isn't having it. She blasts him with insults, mocking his total lack of basic sense. She rants about the massive gap between mana and aura, leaving Jinook speechless and taken aback. All that constant brawling with his bat likely crystallized his mana into aura without him even noticing. Lucia finally cooled off, admitting she dropped the ball by not double-checking the equipment beforehand. They activated the circle too soon, and now their only chance to return home was completely fried. The guilt hit Jin Hyuk hard, so he promised to find a fix and asked how to compensate her. She just barked back, ordering him to go fetch the most delicious sugary snacks in his arsenal. Jin Hyuk bolted for the fridge, offering cake to appease her, but the moment he gripped the handle, a blast of absolute zero air slammed into him. This wasn't a normal fridge malfunction, it was supernatural. As she walked over, they both stared in shock at the entire world, hidden behind the appliance door. Lucia smirked, realizing the magic circle hadn't failed. That endless snowy wasteland across the threshold was the circle's real destination. Feeling the thick mana, Lucia knew exactly where they were standing. It was her original homeworld, though. How the portal manifested inside a refrigerator remained a total mystery. She suggested they dive in to investigate. Jin Hyuk nodded, ready to step into the unknown. But first, business. He pinged Junseo, his guild's co-founder, to handle the home front while he was MIA. He summoned Junseo and Haina to his apartment for an emergency briefing. Once they arrived, Jin Hyuk dropped the bombshell he was going off the grid for some high-intensity training. His clash with Jaehyun proved he was still too weak. Junseo asked if he'd found a new exploit. He wasn't entirely sure yet, but the potential for a massive power spike was definitely there. Hina handed over the latest reports showing the guild was currently dominating the local rankings. But his long absence could jeopardize everything, before Jin Hyuk could even stress about the risks. Junseo stood tall, telling him to relax. He'd keep the guild running like a well-oiled machine. Their influence was already top tier, so Jin Hyuk didn't need to sweat the day-to-day management. He just needed to return as an absolute beast. Junseo quickly updated the rest of the crew. The boss was taking a sabbatical, meaning Junseo was officially stepping up to take the reins. Some members were nervous. Was it really the right move for the guildmaster to vanish now? Trust the process, Junseo insisted. When the boss returns evolved, they'll be absolutely untouchable. They'd finally claim that #1 spot nationwide. Meanwhile, Lucia tapped her foot, waiting for him. He emerged decked out in heavy winter gear, apologizing for the delay in packing his essentials. Then he presented her with a unique bow and quiver, revealing the dwarf smith had sent a gift. Lucia scanned the weapon with a critical eye, acting like a few arrows were no big deal. But her cool facade shattered the moment she realized those arrowheads were crafted with god-tier quality. "Wait, they're actually high rank," Jin Hyuk blurted out. He assumed they were just basic throwaway gear. The dwarf threw them like trash, but clearly the old craftsman actually gives a damn about her. Lucia wouldn't admit it out loud, but she definitely owed that grumpy smith a massive favor now. Taking the plunge, they finally stepped through the rift. The moment they crossed the icy threshold, the atmosphere shifted entirely. They were in a different realm, wondering where to begin their hunt. They quickly stumbled upon a cryptic dungeon. Jin Hyuk grinned. He could smell the loot and danger inside. Lucia agreed, and they dove in. This place was far deeper and more massive than it looked. Suddenly, Lucia's senses spiked. A horde of monsters was already charging straight for their position. She blocked his path, warning him to gear up. The welcoming party was about to arrive. A pack of savage yetis burst from the shadows, lunging at them with murderous primal intent. "Can you keep up?" Lucia teased. Jin Hyuk just smirked, already vibing with the upcoming slaughter. He gripped his bat, boasting he could clear this room blindfolded. Lucia couldn't help but laugh. She called him a total show-off, but they started shredding through the mobs like absolute butter. Jin Hyuk tanked the front lines while Lucia provided lethal pinpoint cover fire from the shadows. Those new arrows were game changers. Feeling the hype, Jin Hyuk prepped his ultimate finishing blow to end it. Meanwhile, word reaches the dragon god, the Apostle, has successfully breached the dimensional rift. Perched upon his throne, the deity dismisses his messenger, declaring an imminent encounter with this mysterious newcomer. The dragon remains baffled. Why grant such a prestigious rank to a mere human like Jin Hyuk instead of noble kin? The god smirks, citing the threads of fate. Jin Hyuk wasn't chosen by chance. He was destined for greatness. He was literally born to bring the world to its knees. Back on the battlefield, Jin Hyuk carves through monsters. Vaulting into the air, he readies a finishing blow, swinging his bat with lethal bone-crushing precision. Like a thunderclap, the weapon shatters the beast's skull. It drops dead instantly as Jin Hyuk gasps for air. Checking his system logs, he sees the name Yeti. This is a first. He has never encountered this species before. Lucia's face pales the second she hears that name, her composure completely shattering as fear takes over. She frantically explains that Yetis are pack predators that dominate the mountain peaks in massive groups. If that was truly a Yeti, they need to vanish from this cavern immediately. Jin Hyuk is totally thrown off. He demands to know the rush, but she warns that slaying one triggers a blood feud with the entire pack. When the Yeti horde descends, they bring a level of ruthless violence that is impossible to survive. Suddenly, a freezing gale rips through the tunnel as monstrous bellows echo from the pitch-black abyss. "Why tell me this now?" he snaps, but Lucia admits the memory only just resurfaced in her mind. "Move," she screams. As they bolt, the frozen floor beneath them begins to splinter and groan under the pressure. He glances back at the shadows. Is running really necessary? To his eyes, the beasts do not look that tough. The monsters seem mid-tier at best, but Lucia quickly reveals the much more terrifying truth. It is not just the beasts, the entire cave is a death trap. One fight could cause a total structural collapse. Without warning, Jin Hyuk skids to a halt. Lucia's heart nearly stops from the sudden paralyzing fear. She shrieks, asking why he would stop in the kill zone, but his expression remains icy and calm. He reaches into his gear, pulling out a flash grenade to blind the incoming wave of monsters. But just as he is about to pull the pin, something bizarre happens. The Yetis freeze mid-charge. Instead of attacking, the monsters turn tail, retreating back into the darkness for some unknown reason.